Good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock and time to begin. Welcome to the May 13th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting for Monterey County. It's somewhere in there. And we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Hartzell, would you like to lead us? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible. All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Hartzell. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Good morning. Commissioner Getzelman?
Here.
Commissioner Mendoza?
Here.
Commissioner Hartzell? Here. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Work?
Here.
Commissioner Deal?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw? Here. Commissioner Monsalve?
Here, and I'm invoking the Just Cause Government Code 54953.8.3 due to a family medical emergency, and I do have one adult present with me at this location.
Thank you. Commissioner Roberts and Commissioner Gomez are absent. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Madam Secretary, would you like to give us a little bit of housekeeping?
Yeah, thank you for joining us. If you are here in chambers or on Zoom, you can have the opportunity to have translation through our Wordly program. So you'll see here in chambers that on the screen at the front, your right, you'll get the bilingual English-Spanish version, and you can also scan the QR code or go to the web page that's displayed and go to Wordly and then select the language for today if you require translation services, and it will give those translation services. If you require headphones here in chambers, do we have them? I believe they're up here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So this is the time set aside on the agenda for public comment, but public comment that you might want to share with us that is not about any agenda items. We'll get to the agenda items during the meeting, but if there's some thoughts you'd like to share, anyone in the chambers? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, is there anybody online?
We have no hands up on Zoom and no additional emails.
Very good, thank you. Are there any agenda additions, corrections, or deletions?
Yes, for the record, we received and distributed additional correspondence for agenda item number 1, REF 250037, Water Allocation Policy. Agenda item number 2, PLN 030204, Amendment 2, Extension 1, UCP East Garrison LLC. And agenda item number 3, PLN 240141, Northern California Congressional Retirement Homes, Inc.
Thank you. Fellow commissioners, do you have any comments, requests, or referrals you'd like to share? Nope, seeing no one. Very good. Let's move along then to scheduled matters. The first item on the agenda under scheduled matters is REF number 250037. It would be the water allocation policy. Staff, when you're ready, please share.
Oh, we're good. Could you share staff right, please? Good morning, Chair Getzelman, members of the Planning Commission. Sarah Weichel with HCD, Principal Planner. Today, staff will be presenting on the water allocation policy, referral number 250037, and this item was continued from April 29th Planning Commission meeting to today's meeting. The requested action is that the Planning Commission consider and provide input on a draft water allocation policy for areas in unincorporated Monterey County served by the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. The presentation will consist of an overview of the following topics: a high-level summary of the feedback received from the Planning Commission at the April 29th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting, overview of the public comment that's been received to date since that last meeting and distributed to the Planning Commission and interested parties lists, some informational follow-up items specific to SB 330 and Housing Accountability Act projects and how they would intersect with the policy, discussion on fixture maximums, some additional background on the planned housing growth category, a review of the water waiting list, which has been revised since the last Planning Commission meeting, and water remaining for allocation to other projects, a discussion of the draft policy and water eligibility or eligibility for water allocation, and some discussion of options for the Planning Commission to consider regarding water allocation reservation, and then timing and next steps for the policy development process. At the April 29th Planning Commission meeting, staff heard the following items heard the following feedback as listed on the screen. Staff did provide a clean and redline version of the water allocation policy at Planning Commission's request. This is provided in Exhibits A and B. The clean version is all the edits from the last meeting, so that included the RADA memo edits, so that's the clean version. And then the redline version had some minor updates to try to address some of the numbering related concerns, some discussion about additional extensions for time for affordable housing projects, as well as some discussion on some policy changes at the service district area in the background section. Also, this presentation will cover some additional context on the use categories in the draft policy. There will be some discussion and information provided related to complete projects in the service area, requests for information related to the fixture maximums in the policy, and a better understanding of the remaining water allocation after water is allocated to projects on the waiting list. Again, there was the request for information related to how the policy applies to projects under SB 330, which is part of the Housing Accountability Act, and then some additional clarity was requested on how and when projects qualify and reserve water allocation and how that ties into the draft policy. Multiple comment letters were received. Specific ones included comments from Landwatch, the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, the Monterey County Association of Realtors, and other public comments that had some key concerns and questions raised. And most of these topics were discussed in our last Planning Commission meeting. Specific concerns were raised around the fixture maximums, the amount of water being allocated for planned housing growth, how vesting works for SB 330 projects as it relates in this policy. Clarifying edits to the draft policy were provided by the management district for consideration. And questions again were raised related to when water is reserved in the allocation process for projects. So for housing accountability projects, specifically projects utilizing SB 330, those projects that provision of state law allows for projects to be vested in the rules, policies, and regulations in place at time a preliminary application is filed with the county. And so applications that were filed under that legislation or with that process prior to the adoption of the policy would not be subject to the categories and fixture limits in the policy. Like this? Is this better? Thank you. And so for fixture maximums, again, there's no changes with this policy. The 25 fixture units for single family dwellings and 12 fixture units for ADUs is still what is proposed. Staff continues to recommend those fixture maximums. And we thought it might be helpful to look at the kind of worksheet that is filled out by applicants and kind of provide a little context as to where the thought process came for the 25 fixture units. So on your screen, you'll see the total at the bottom is roughly 18 fixture units. This is looking at indoor fixtures, and you'll see towards the top of your screen, 3, again, there's depending on how you do this worksheet, and with this fixture maximum, you could get anywhere from 2.5 to 3 bathrooms in a single family dwelling. Staff did look to add some additional fixture units for landscaping or for additional fixtures in the home. How the policy is written is, again, for single family dwellings, this maximum is inclusive of indoor, outdoor, indoor or landscaping water requirements, but ultimately wanted to try and give property owners the flexibility of utilizing those credits in whatever way is seemed fit in those situations. And then for the 12 fixture units for ADUs and JADUs, again, these are for indoor fixtures. And if you look again at the top of your screen and through the worksheet, you can still, the thought process was to have 2 full bathrooms, a clothes washer and a dishwasher. There is a credit that's provided for instant hot water access systems. And again, that gets to the total of the 12 fixture units that are proposed in the policy. Again, staff does recommend these maximums. If projects were to exceed these fixture limits, they could potentially ask for water through the strategic reserve category in the policy, which would require approval from the Board of Supervisors. For planned housing growth, give me one moment. So after water is allocated to the water waiting list, approximately 80% of the remaining allocation would be dedicated to planned housing growth in the draft policy. The following government code section and state housing law do require jurisdictions to prioritize water and sewer services to housing units that are affordable to low-income households. And staff also went back and confirmed some of the numbers that were discussed at the prior Planning Commission meeting. This is a conservative estimate, but there's approximately 1,300 units in the service area. The housing element looked at about 20 fixture units per dwelling, and that would equal about 269 acre-feet of water. So ultimately, again, just to provide some context, given that there's this amount of need and planned growth in both in the housing element and in state housing law, that is what factored into the 80% of the remaining allocation being dedicated to planned housing growth, and that's still staff's recommendation in the policy. In terms of the water waiting list, so Exhibit C was revised since it last came to the Planning Commission a couple weeks ago. This was due to some policy changes that were discovered when going back and reviewing some of the water district rules and regulations as it relates to water. Previously, the understanding was water for projects in the Ryan and Bishop Ranch subsystem areas would come from a separate pot of water, which is called the seaside adjudication. But with the update to Rule 33, that water or allocation to those projects, so specifically the approved project was a McIntosh project near Laguna Seca Office Park. That water now has to come out of the county's allocation. So that since that project's approved, it was added to the updated and revised water waiting list in Exhibit C. And so this is a table to help illustrate kind of the differing levels of priority related to the water waiting list in addition to the acre feet that's remaining once we take out some of the projects from the approved projects on the water waiting list. So as you'll see on your screen, there's a total of approximately 82 acre feet available. Approximately 19 acre feet is going to go to approved projects on the water wait list. And then with that remaining 80%, so about 50 acre feet would be going towards planned housing growth. 9.5 acre feet, approximately, would be first come, first serve, and approximately 3 acre feet would be for the strategic reserve category. Staff's recommendation for the water waiting list is that Exhibit C be recommended as is, which is just including approved projects that would be taken off the top of the county's water allocation. As noted in Section 4 of the policy, staff will continue to regularly review the policy and assess for any changes needed to the policy based on the demand for water in various use categories and or if and when the county receives additional water from the district, which the district's made it clear in their comments that they have intentions to provide water to the county once the allocation that the county currently has is exhausted. However, the timing of that is currently unknown. And then one of the big discussion topics was related to water eligibility versus water reservation. So as the draft policy is currently written, eligibility is not reservation of water, it's notification to applicants at the completeness stage of the development review process that they meet the requirements of the water policy, and upon either approval by the appointing authority for a land use entitlement, so approval by the Planning Commission, or approval for a building permit, that's when the water would be reserved, issued, vested. Staff also noted in that procedure section that information would be regularly updated and made available to the public on HCD's website at regular intervals of update that would note in real time the availability of water, the number of projects that have been determined eligible with the policy, and any water that's been approved and issued. So there'd be kind of 3 different categories that would be tracked. When the policy was originally drafted, staff believed that this earlier notification in the process assisted in providing some certainty to applicants a little bit earlier when they're submitting applications to the county for review. However, concerns were raised at the April 29th Planning Commission meeting, and staff did hear these concerns. Ultimately, the concerns raised were that eligibility is not reservation of water as the policy is written, and that reserving water and kind of locking it in or holding it earlier in the development process would help with financing of projects and approval certainty. Staff's main concerns with this approach are to find ways to ensure that meaningful progress is made towards construction of projects, that should say projects, apologies for the typo, and or by the appointing authority. And so here, staff is asking for some feedback from the Planning Commission and some options to consider. Staff does, as the draft policy is written, and staff would recommend that the eligibility of water be provided at completeness review. However, the Planning Commission could direct staff to revise the policy and note that applicants can request water as part of completeness review and reserve the water at that time. The one thing staff would recommend, if the Planning Commission provides that direction, is for staff to continue to work through appropriate performance metrics. So ultimately, those performance metrics would ensure that staff, members of the public, as well as applicants are making their due diligence and moving through the process versus water being locked up and kind of stuck in that completeness review phase for years at a time, which is, I think, staff's main concern. In terms of next steps and timing, again, staff will take today's input and recommendation from the Planning Commission onto the Board of Supervisors, make any necessary policy changes with the target of going to the Board of Supervisors in early June for a policy adoption. And staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission consider and provide input on a draft water allocation policy for areas of unincorporated Monterey County served by the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. Staff will transmit the Planning Commission's recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for the board's consideration of the policy. While no formal recommendation from the Planning Commission is required for this administrative board policy, the Commission's feedback to date has been incredibly helpful and is integral to the implementation of the policy. And the feedback of the Planning Commission is very valuable to staff. And so that concludes staff's presentation. Happy to answer any questions the Planning Commission may have. And I believe HCD Director Spencer is also in attendance with us today to help provide any additional feedback. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very complete. Appreciate that. Commissioners, do we have questions? Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, excellent presentation. Thank you very much. Couple of questions about starting with some of the received correspondence. With the letter from the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, is there anything in that letter that staff believes would need to be taken into account in our current updates? And I use examples of, for example, that letter globally changes the word released, allocation to release, things like that. In their red line version, are there things we should be taking into account at this time?
Yes, so I believe there are some minor, and again, we received some of this correspondence late yesterday, so staff did go through it, and there are some minor clarifications that we could include in the policy to make the terminology correct. I know one of the other things the district flagged, for example, was making in some cases making reference to their rules and regulations versus the form, because those policies can change. And so while that's not in the draft, staff would like to make some of those clarifying edits.
Okay, so staff, this gets back to my first question, which is what is staff's current recommendation to the board? Because we have the two versions yet again. We have the clean, and then we have an additional red line with some other minor changes, as I understand it. Plus, we now have some input that we propose to incorporate. So what would staff's recommendation be at this time? Do we know?
Staff's recommendation would be so we have the clean and the red line versions are the same. The red line is just showing the edits, would be to recommend to the board approval of that, what's attached for the Planning Commission's consideration, and then if provide direction to staff and incorporate, or excuse me, let me clarify. Authorize staff to make any clarifying edits or changes in response to the public correspondence that was received. And then if there's additional input specifically related to staff asking for feedback on various policy options, making sure that's included as part of the recommendation so authorization to staff and providing any feedback to clarify. Let me think a little bit more if I can articulate that better for you, Commissioner Deal. I'm kind of thinking on the fly, so let me think about that if that's okay, and I will clarify the recommendation.
At some point, and perhaps it's after public comment, we'd like to know, I would like to know what staff's current recommendation would be in as completely as we can, so that I'm aware of what we're discussing. And then I have just a couple of questions that continue to baffle me, and one of them I know I've had asked, and I think we all have seen in public comment, and that is, if a builder's remedy project has been submitted now in this service area, what are the rules relating to water for that proposed project? It says it would be the rules that are in effect now. What rules are those? And as far as I know, unless they have water already from some other reason, there isn't any water. Is that the rule we're talking about? I mean, what happens now?
I can take a stab at answering the question, and then I may refer to the Secretary or HCD Director Spencer. So what we tried to do, staff tried to clarify, so for projects that are vested and approved without a policy, there is no policy. Past practice and what has been done is those water requests would be considered by the appointing authority if there's a land use entitlement or a use permit, and would be approved through that, or would be approved by the HCD director for a construction permit or designee. So essentially it would go through whatever the past practices prior to the adoption of the policy. So none of, for example, the fixture limits wouldn't apply to those projects because that's not currently in effect.
So would the fact that there is and has been no water till now be in effect, or is this water in play for all the builder remedy projects? This proposed additional water that we're trying to set a priority on. Do they have access to that, or do they not?
My understanding is they would have access to this water, but let me defer to Secretary Brady.
Yeah, I think so. So the nuance is that, yes, correctly, new policy changes would not apply to vested builder remedy projects. However, this is the water that is available. And so as projects would come forward through the allocation process, then they would be need to take into account, and water would need to be allocated out of the water that we have to allocate. So, and I want to apologize. I don't know if this is in the policy. I can't remember if staff added it, but the intention is individuals with builder's remedy could come through and work through this policy as well, but they would not be required to, and then we could process them separately through past practice.
To follow up, so that in my mind means that it's entirely discretionary. In other words, it comes forward not under this priority. A builder's remedy project comes forward and requests water from this available water stash. If we were to say, decide that it was all affordable and we wish to give them recommend that they get that water release or allocate or whatever the word is, we could do that. in other words, or conversely, if we didn't think it was a project that was according to our priorities, we could, with our discretion, without reference to this policy, say no. Is that true?
It would be a discretionary decision, and I know Director Spencer has his hand up, and so I think he may want to add some additional comment clarification.
Director Spencer, would you like to share with us?
Yes, thank you, commissioners, and I think Sarah and Melanie covered it well. We have a situation where an application filed under a builder remedy would be subject to the rules in place at the time they filed. That's by statute. So they would be subject to no rules because there were no rules for the allocation of policy. We would need to determine essentially in discretionary decision whether or not to allocate water to those projects. I think the comment that has been received believes that it would be on a first come, first served basis. In the past practice, which may come into play here, the Planning Commission, Zoning Administrator, Appropriate Authority, whoever that might be, essentially approved entitlements with the thinking that they would be added to a wait list at one point in time. And there were a number of building permits, ministerial permits submitted that didn't have water and were added to a wait list as well. So if there was a discretionary permit, that would have to be part of the decision making as part of the review of a project, and you would not apply the rules that we're putting in place today. But the rules that we're trying to put in place today do reference projects submitted prior to the adoption of this rule go through, a discretionary decision-making process if one applies. So that's I think how we're handling it, and it's a little bit fuzzy because we can't apply these rules to a builder remedy application, but we would need to determine as part of the review of the project if they have an adequate amount of water, and if they're asking for water from the county's allocation from Water Management District, we would have to decide on that, absent a policy.
Did that help, Commissioner Deal?
I think it confirmed what I thought, which is that we, at that point, could make a decision on the merits, and we would just have to support it with appropriate findings and evidence, whatever that decision might be. So that certainly is in my view, really helpful. And I want to move on to the waiting list, because we saw the revision of the waiting list to include 3 projects that have already been through the process, but there's no reference to the other people that the director just talked about who have been put on a waiting list for commercial or residential expansions or things of that nature. Or is there nobody on a list waiting to add a bathroom anymore? They've all done it, or they all gave up, or what? Because for a long time, that's how we did it.
I can take, again, another stab at answering that question and then may defer to HCD Director Spencer. So in the staff report, there was a brief discussion about the water waiting list that HCD inherited for the from the Water Resources Agency. And there was a waiting list of approximately 60 people waiting for water at one point in time. Over the last few years, staff has reached out to those property owners who were on the waiting list to determine both interest in remaining and waiting for water, or to confirm if other water had been received from other sources. So what is before you today, the 2 that were previously included were the 2 remaining owners or properties that were still waiting for water, did not obtain it from another source. So that includes the Carmel Valley Ranch project, and there was a letter included as reference related to that. I think it's Exhibit D. And then there was 1 single-family dwelling that was still waiting for water. So in terms of the waiting list that HCD was maintaining, these were the 2 final people that were on that specific waiting list. And then the additional project was, again, the project, the Macintosh project, which is in the Laguna Seca Office Park. It's an apartment project that was added as in response to the changes in the district, Rule 33.
Wasn't the residential one for a new home? It wasn't for any of the people who have been waiting to add a bathroom. So we
I
got
believe
none
it
of
was for a
those?
new home.
Yeah, so we got none of the smaller little guys. None of those people who had been waiting, to my knowledge, for 20 years or whatever it is, are on any list anymore?
I do not believe so. Director Spencer, is there anything else you'd like to add related to Commissioner Deal's question?
Yeah, if it's acceptable to the chair.
Of course.
Thank you. There's I think that the flaw we had in our draft was calling it a water wait list. What we're looking at are approved projects, commitments to, authorization to build something with water fixtures that need a water management district permit. The water wait list, as Sarah mentioned, it began when the Water Resources Agency was the agency tracking the county's water allocations, the Peralta, pre-Peralta allocations that we had in the 90s. Projects were approved or went through our system and were ready to issue. And if there wasn't water allocated to them, they were added to the wait list. We have other scenarios where we have now approved projects that weren't on the water wait list that now need water. And then we have people who are interested in adding water and are either in the process of trying to attain a permit or just generally interested in having the water to do something, and may have sent an email or letter at one point. There isn't a list of interested people who are out there wanting water for one reason or another. There is this old water wait list, which we have verified that only one truly still remains just because of the amount of time that's passed. The water has been obtained from other sources like Malpaso water credits or something along the lines. The owners have sold the property and moved along and are no longer interested. So we've whittled down that water wait list to one single family dwelling in Del Monte Forest that is truly still waiting for the water to be available. The prior commitments to Carmel Valley Ranch that still remain valid, and now adding the approved projects in the Laguna Seca Office Park to what has been approved and now needs a water allocation. So those are approved projects, not that as a combination of water wait list and which is also approved projects. It's not those in process who want to request that the water be made available to them, because that decision has not been made yet. The policy is not in place, and we don't have a comprehensive list of those yet. We also don't have a comprehensive list of people who have expressed an interest but haven't applied. So I would say that what we're looking at in terms of what staff's presenting are approved projects that have an entitlement to build and need a water allocation, if that's the right term, it might not be, sub-allocation to build and to get the water permit in order to get the building permit and begin building.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Commissioner Deal, do you have follow-up?
I do. Yes, thank you. I get that. I know what we're talking about. But I also know that if you were a person within this district that went in to apply for an administrative permit for an expansion of a half bath, you were told no, go away. And so you didn't get on any list. And I'd really like to have some consideration in the policy going forward that would address the fact that people were not allowed to even get in the door to make the request because it wasn't a discretionary project to begin with in many cases. And it would have certainly not been discretionary absent any difficulty getting water. So I really just got to keep speaking out for the ordinary people. And right now, we've, I think, seen staff done a really diligent job with the larger projects and the discretionary projects. But we've already ruled out a whole class of people who have been trying for a long time to do some work. And I just would like to have some way to address that need that isn't documented because it wasn't allowed to be documented. That's all. And I have hoping that public comment will address most of my other concerns. So thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Deal. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Commissioner Hartzell?
Thank you. Picking up on that conversation about the water waiting list, under Section 2 background, there is a water waiting list in quotations in the red marked on the bottom paragraph of the second page of background, and that's all lowercase. And then under the policy, there is capitalized in quotes HCD approved water waiting list in the third or fourth paragraph, depending on whether you count the numbers. I find that to be quite confusing to have those referred to as, I can't tell if they're the same thing or not. And what I just heard from Director Spencer was maybe that doesn't exist at all. So I would like a little information on what you're referring to in those two places, and maybe help me as a layperson understand what you're talking about. Quasi-layperson.
Sorry, I'm just taking a peek here.
Bottom of page 23.
Yep. Yeah, I see the in quotation red line, and then the quotation below, and then I see in the policy the HCD approved water wait list. So yes, that is confusing. I think the intent. The intent is for, I believe, both of those to read the same or have a consistent naming convention. So if it's staff would like to propose to make that clarification as cleanup as part of the red lines to make them all be consistent with each other.
And when I'm looking at that consistent term, am I referring to a piece of paper maintained in Director Spencer's office, or is this kind of a esoteric concept? What is the wait list?
The wait list previously was held by the HCD director or designee. Now, in terms of us going through that and providing it, it would be referred to now as the Exhibit C in the staff report. So that's what's kind of the most current, publicly available, up-to-date waiting list. The background was attempting to contextualize the practice and the fact that there was that larger waiting list. And so now the current iteration is what is attached to the staff report as Exhibit C.
And when you say it's publicly available, where is it publicly available, or how?
Currently, it is on, we have a water allocation webpage that does need to get updated with this packet. So staff will note that will happen after this meeting. But in the future, and as it relates to the policy draft and kind of some of those that staff updating of availability of water information, we would be looking to do a standalone webpage and do some kind of public outreach to make sure that people knew where it was available and the frequency at which it's being updated. So there's still a little bit of work. It is currently included as the packet. It would be on the project webpage, and then we would be creating a separate page with all of the information related to, again, the wait list, and then also ongoing updates as it relates to this policy once the policy is adopted.
Excellent. I love that transparency. Thank you. I just have one more question. I saw a lot of public comment about the fixture units, and in looking into those comments, and I anticipate some, so I'm not going to try and get ahead of those comments, but I did feel some confusion about where landscaping fixtures fit into the 25 count. And looking at the District Rule 142, which explains landscaping features, which I know is not our responsibility here, but it is confusing to me on what is a landscaping fixture, what falls into the 25 unit count. Could you just explain that to me before we hear public comment?
Sure. So in terms of the 25 unit, again, what staff was looking at with that was, and I think, and I'm trying to remember if it was one of the past iterations, staff was working on with the policy. First, and when we came in November, we talked about fixture limits for incorporated jurisdictions, got the feedback that was too low, so then we increased it to the 18 fixture limit, which would accommodate up to 2.5 to 3 baths. And upon further review, that was really looking at indoor fixtures. So in terms of the 25 that is in the policy draft as you see it, there would be 7 additional fixture units, and ultimately that's up to the discretion of the homeowner. And that's inclusive, and I believe we updated the policy, but we could clean it up even more if it would help to put in parentheses landscaping and indoor fixtures, or total fixtures, I think is what is said. But that those 7 fixture units would be for landscaping and/or any additional plumbing fixtures inside the house. So if someone wanted to have 4 bathrooms and have less landscaping, they would have that flexibility. At one point, we did think about, like, do we want to chunk out a limit for landscaping, but thought that it made more sense to have that larger number be at the discretion of the homeowner, so that gives them a little more flexibility of design of both the home as well as landscaping.
I don't have any recommendations on that yet. I'd like to hear public comment, but I will say that reading Rule 142 was really informative for me, particularly around the gray water, stormwater, and recycled water things, and the kind of credits that homeowners can get for using those types of water on landscaping features. So when this goes to the board, I would say add it as an exhibit or something.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
Very good. Commissioner Shaw, you had comments?
Thank you. I have a question. Prior to the first iteration of this, was there any meaningful conversation with the actual people who facilitate building of the housing that we're looking for? Developers, real estate professionals. I ask this because every single letter that's in this packet that we've received disagrees with the scope of this policy. And so I'm wondering, what opportunity did they have prior to this actually coming to us?
So for the last planning commission meeting, and let me try to get my dates. So we had the workshop in November. Staff went and did some refinement of the policy. During that time frame, staff did meet with development community housing providers to give them a pass at some of the draft ideas and get some feedback, which then informed the policy that came at the end of April. Staff also did make the draft available for a 2-week, sorry, I'm echoing myself, for a 2-week comment period in early April. I believe it was April 8th to April 22nd. So we did try to make the draft publicly available. Did note some of the public comment coming from the Monterey County Association of Realtors related to their key concerns seem to be related to fixture maximums, and specifically the planned housing growth category. That seemed to be kind of a consistent theme throughout the comments from the individual outside of the real estate association's letter. And so part of what staff was trying to do with the presentation today was to provide some of that additional context for planned housing growth, and specifically the housing that's planned for in the housing element, in addition to other needs around housing, to substantiate why the 80% was previously recommended for staff for planned housing growth. And then also wanted to walk through some of those fixture worksheets to give some context as to where staff was coming from with the recommendations for the fixture maximums in the policy.
Thank you. I have one more question. Just completely as a layperson, just a regular person living in the county, not a professional of any sort, I just don't understand why this needs to be as restrictive as it is, or so much control. I mean, do we need to reinvent the wheel with this? I'm trying to understand where the need to have this be so in depth with so many little points of control. Based on the letters that I'm seeing, there's so many wonderful ideas of a more streamlined approach that would be less restrictive. even from somebody who, from a group like Landwatch, who has been famously in agreement with what the county's doing, has a lot of disagreement on some of the points. So I'm wondering, couldn't we have just copied another city, maybe like Monterey, the city of Monterey has been brought up, instead of it being like this? Why is it so extensive?
Sure, I can take an approach at answering the question, Commissioner Shaw, through the chair. So historically, the county had it was first come, first serve, and county received an additional allocation of the 72 acre feet last January. And given, again, talking about affordable housing, planned housing growth, changes in state housing law, the fact that we had such a kind of finite number of water that was being allocated to the county, staff was attempting to create a framework of structure where there previously was no structure. I think when staff came to the Planning Commission in November, staff threw a lot of ideas out at the Planning Commission, and I think some of the feedback that was provided to us, both from the Planning Commission and the public, was, hey, this is granted, it's still a pretty robust policy, but at the time, even when we were thinking, hey, this is too much, and staff was looking at City of Carmel as an option in terms of what they've done related to water allocation, City of Seaside as well. But again, some of the framework for an incorporated city is really different than an incorporated county. And so I think it required a little bit of staff taking a step back and really trying to understand and note, hey, this is a really small amount of, in the grand scheme of things, this is not a lot of water, which is why we tried to land on kind of the 3 use categories and tried to clearly articulate, depending on if you're a construction permit or a discretionary permit, here's what your process would look like, to provide some framing. And staff also ended up, and we came to the Planning Commission with, hey, do we do a board policy? Do we do an ordinance? Do we do both? And upon trying to simplify, staff thought that doing a board policy would allow us to say, hey, here's a framework. Staff can go and regularly look at this. We can update it in response to changes in water demand. If the water district provided additional water, if water's not an issue, we can go back, go to the board, and work with the Planning Commission, of course, but we have more of a direct shot of trying to modify the policy landscape in real time to be responsive to the changes in what we may see on the ground. So in terms of some of the public comment received, staff, again, a chunk of it was received yesterday, has been going through it. I think staff thinks there are some kind of clarifying edits and cleanup that could happen and be carried on through the board, especially some of the clarification from the Water Management District. There is some items in the Land Watch letter. Specifically, I think there was some items related to planned housing growth category where staff was like, oh yeah, that actually I think makes a lot of sense. Like, why don't we add this in? And so there's still some of that fine tuning, and I know it's hard, and I wish it could be more complete, but this policy has been so kind of iterative in response to the public and response to Planning Commission comments. I think it's closer to being, we're at that point of wanting to provide that direction and recommendation to the board, but there's still a little bit of work that may need to be done. So that may have been a long-winded way of attempting to address your question. But ultimately, again, with this board policy, if things change and we're getting that feedback, we can come back and we can modify it relatively quickly, which is, I think, a preference for staff to be responsive to both to the decision makers as well as the public.
Thank you. Director Spencer, did you want to add to that perhaps?
Actually, Sarah did a great job. I just wanted to rephrase the conversation a little bit. And this is, as Sarah mentioned, it's an iterative process. So, we have to start somewhere. We came to the Planning Commission. We talked about some options and paths. We put something together, and I think it's not all criticism of what we put together. It's suggestions for how to improve it, and it's been iterative back and forth in ways in which we can improve it. I just want to make that point because it has been a collaborative effort. We've listened to a lot of the feedback. We've made tweaks. We've come back with those tweaks, and we're here again as part of a public process in front of the Planning Commission to get the feedback and the public input to tweak the project again. So I just wanted to rephrase the discussion so that it's not staff being overly restrictive. It is, we're trying to start at a place where we're trying to develop a policy that makes sense. Those restrictions that are in question, 25 fixture units, whether that's the right number or not, is something we can debate and change if needed. So I just wanted to add that piece, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. So my framing of this in my mind is that we are being asked to recommend a policy to the board. And this is going to be the board's direction to our staff on how to consistently go about allocating a small amount of water that we've come into. Okay, so it's what we're asking, what we're suggesting the board do is in place of nothing, they're going to make a direction to the staff. And I think that giving the staff a good firm direction personally seems like a good idea, and something as contentious as water, pretty much a critical idea. So in that framing, the amount of specificity in a policy can be changed by the board when they feel, if they run into a friction point, they could say, oh yeah, well, we're now going to direct you to do something different. I'm all over that. I think that's the most flexible we can be while providing staff with some sort of a framework. So that's why I was stressing on what is staff recommending, because they're saying, what do we need? What would we like to have so that we can consistently apply some sort of policy kind of a thing, so we're not just left out there guessing and having everybody question our guesses. So I guess the only other thing I was going to ask the staff, besides for when we get to the end what their recommendation as a result of all this is going to be, is any of this required in order to help us along with our housing element issues?
Yes. So there is a policy in the housing element through the chair. I'm getting used to saying
no,
through the chair. I apologize.
Certainly. No, that's quite
Other
all right.
jurisdictions, I have not done that. So the housing element does have a policy. I cannot call the policy number off the top of my head, or program number, where county does need to prioritize water and sewer services and have some policies and procedures in place. So again, we're focusing here today on the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. But as staff goes through implementing the housing element, we're probably going to have to look at similar policies in other parts of the county where water and sewer are very, crucial and vital resources for housing growth and development. So this policy is assisting in implementing the housing element as it's the draft housing element.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mendoza?
Yes, the question I have, on your fixture count, a total of 25, and you're saying, I believe, 18 for inside the house. I know that's actually pretty easy to enforce because you go through building and you can get that count. Now, in reference to your landscape, you have 7 additional for the landscape. How is that enforced? I mean, I get my water allocated to me and I own a couple acres, and all of a sudden I want to put in a swimming pool. Is that a fixture? Another question, now I want to put in a garden. How do we enforce the amount of water that I could actually use? Because I could use a lot more water than the residence would itself. So I'm just looking for enforcement. How do you enforce it?
I will take a stab at that and then defer to other staff through the chair. So what's also part of what we have to be what staff is continuously mindful of is there is this interplay with the district. I believe in the district comments, they had some reference to potential, including some language related to enforcement of fixtures and water use. And so there is, through the building permit process and or project process, depending on where we land for reserving that water, the table that staff showed previously would need to be filled out and articulate kind of anticipated water usages. And that would be the baseline for this is what you're getting approved for through the policy, and this is what you would be issued through from the county. And then there's some work that happens with the water management district as well. I think I will defer to Director Spencer because he has a little bit more knowledge on this piece, but I think I believe enforcement authority may be under the water district in conjunction with the county's code enforcement division if there's issues, but I'm not 100% certain on that. So Director Spencer, can you provide clarity on that?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So I think we all sort of understand and agree that you could have water use that's not related to water fixtures. But we have a system where water permitting occurs through the water management district that relies on a water fixture count. And there is a multiplier, as Sarah kind of showed, that ends up giving you a number somewhere between, somewhere around 25 for a house, for instance. According to the water management district rules, that translates to 0.25 acre feet per year. And we've been given an allocation in acre feet. So we're doing this math through the water fixture calculations because that is the system in place. It's not about how much water is actually being used, but someone could add fixtures without a permit. And then if they were to go through our normal code enforcement process, because there's been a report or we've discovered that some work has been done without a permit, our code enforcement staff would require that they either get a permit or remove the work they did without a permit. That's generally how our enforcement works. If water management district staff does an inspection and finds that there's fixtures that were added that weren't permitted through their water permit system, they would file a notice of violation and they would rely on us to enforce the code in the same way that we would had we had water management district not instigated that report. So, and if we don't enforce, they can deduct from our allocation that that amount of water that covers that fixture unit that is there illegally and hasn't been enforced upon to be removed or permitted through the normal channels.
Did that answer
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, does that answer that question for you?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I do understand what you're saying, but in reference to the amount of water that is going to be used outside, like in the gardening per se, or the landscaping, I think that's very, very difficult to put an amount on how much water somebody can use. I mean, if it's a landscaping, I can have 2 acres of landscaping that will use what 10 houses use, because we don't put in plans for. I think landscaping is an ongoing thing. Today I like a plant here, the next day I want it there, and then the following day I want it in another place, and now I don't like them, I tear them out and replace them with new plants. I think it's just difficult to enforce, and that's the problem I'm having. I'm just trying to understand that. Thank you.
Thank you for trying. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar questions because I was looking at the application, especially a part about is a water meter needed, which that means to me, and my assumption is that if somebody says no, then they wouldn't put up a meter. But in all this process, I'm assuming that not everybody has to have a water meter. Is that correct? Or because again, it goes back to the issue about it doesn't matter how many fixtures you have, whether you have 25, 30, or 35. Somebody has to use a bathroom here or a bathroom there or a third bathroom. Whatever water you're going to use, you're going to use it, and it's more for convenience. So I was a little concerned in terms of the number of where the water fixtures. And so I guess where is it required, and I guess, and where is it not required as far as a water meter? Because you can add different fixtures inside the house and less outside, but you can always connect the hose and use a lot of water. So is it required in what areas and what areas isn't it?
Want to try that one?
Through the chair. So one thing to note, and I think the prior iteration of this policy, we did some slight tweaks to move a couple things around, but the policy does not trump the current cease and desist order with CalAm, which prohibits the setting of new meters. And so how the policy is written is it's referring to properties and projects that already have water meters. Now, when the time that cease and desist order is lifted, that would change the discussion and may warrant some changes to the policy, but we tried to clean up the policy, so that's at least some context in the background section versus like relying on that cease and desist order in any of the procedure sections or other sections.
Thank you.
Did that answer? Yeah, good, okay. Everyone's good? All righty, great. Well, let's open this up to the public now for anyone in the audience who would like to like to share their thoughts with us. Come on down and give us your name, please. We'll have that for the record.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. I have a handout that I'd be happy to put on the screen. I don't know how to work this, if someone can help me with that. I want to first thank you for acknowledging the importance of allocating the water at the time that the application is deemed complete. That feedback to staff was very important and helpful. In communicating with staff, it was our understanding that staff was looking to you to provide additional color and direction as to specifics on how and when that allocation would occur. And so we took a stab at proposed language with specificity as to those issues. So I'm going to read this, and then there's one other comment I'll make. So as to the process to allocate water at such time as the application is deemed complete, we would recommend the following language. For both ministerial and discretionary permit qualifying projects, the county shall reserve the water allocation necessary for the project at the time that these conditions are met. A, the county determines the project application is complete. B, the applicant has provided the county with satisfactory evidence of the project's ability to receive an allocation, such as documentation of an existing CalAm water meter or a will serve letter. C, a schedule of fixture units and the total water allocation required for the project. And D, the reservation shall become effective upon the three items above, along with payment to the county of the applicable county established entitlement processing fees. And to editorialize that, the context here is that the county receives fees in order to advance a project, and the nexus between what we're requesting and that last issue is that if you're receiving fees to process a project, those fees are otherwise at risk if the water is not reserved. So we think that it's important to highlight that given that you are collecting fees, there is evidence of the applicant's sincere intent to proceed with the project. Essentially helps to collateralize that commitment of water. Item 2, as to the milestones that we would suggest for consideration in order to make sure that water is not hoarded, a water reservation approved pursuant to this policy shall remain valid subject to the following deadlines and milestones. The applicant shall diligently pursue the processing of the application following its completeness determination. B, the reservation shall remain valid for 12 months with a 1-year extension following the date the application is deemed complete to allow for processing of planning entitlements. If the HCD director opts not to extend the reservation, the applicant shall have the right to appeal that decision to the Planning Commission. If project approvals are challenged through administrative appeal or judicial action, all reservation deadlines shall automatically be tolled during the pendency of such challenge. And D, following the approval of the required planning entitlements, the applicant shall submit a complete building permit application within 6 months. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the screen. Excuse me. Following submission of the complete building permit application, the reservation shall remain valid for an additional 12 months while the application diligently pursues the permit issuance. Water rights shall then vest upon issuance of the first building permit for the project. Construction shall commence within 6 months following the issuance of the building permit, or the reservation shall be forfeited. The applicant again may request an additional 6-month extension, and if denied, will have the opportunity to appeal that decision to the Planning Commission. And then H, additional extensions may be granted at the discretion of the Planning Commission. So these extensions and the timelines are in place essentially to make sure that people are advancing a project through the process. 12 months for a planning entitlement is, optimistic in most cases. So there's an extra 12 months for the extension. And then after you receive the planning entitlements, 6 months is a reasonable amount of time during which you can make application for a building permit. 12 months is at times, particularly in complex projects, necessary to obtain the actual building permit. And then the last check and balance is that the construction must be completed. And we added that last suggestion in order to address circumstances like COVID, where there are interruptions in business activity that would represent extraneous circumstances and not be at the fault of the applicant. The other points are relatively self-evident. Essentially that there are extensions, and I won't read the specifics, and then there's a forfeiture process. So trying to effectively help fill in the blanks, we are an applicant for water on a housing opportunity site that will add 15 affordable units. Those 15 affordable units are in fact dependent upon the allocation. So this will be put to good use if applied as such. The last comment that I make just globally is that in prior meetings directing staff on policy, you made the recommendation that the water not be allocated all to one particular project. And staff responded with a cap of 15 acre-feet for any one project, which if you look at the total amount that's available is a very considerable amount. Even so, it's possible that one mega project could use up 100% of the water that is available based on its ability to get in front of the line. And so we would ask that the Planning Commission again direct staff to please reinstate that per project maximum of 15 acre-feet, which should succeed in developing a very considerably large number of units. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We didn't get your name, though, sir. Would you mind?
My apologies. Patrick Orozco.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you.
Mr. Orozco, my apology. We're going to put a 3-minute limit on this so we can move through these, if you don't mind. So just give us your name, please, and start in.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. My name is Adam Pinteritz. I'm on behalf of the Monterey County Association of Realtors, representing over 1,300 real estate professionals, serving thousands of clients across Monterey County. I want to first recognize a key component staff absolutely got right. The City of Monterey policy is to sit on their allocation until the state CDO is modified or lifted. This water is meant to be used, not squirreled away. So thank you, staff, for that. Thank you, staff, also for the clarification on the number pertaining to fixtures and the distinction between single-family residents and ADUs, and follow-up to my written comment submission. That's really helpful for us all to be on the same page. following my my conversation with the district. All the same, we still believe it best to remove fixture regulations from the policy. Please ask yourselves, does the fixture cap do anything to actually create more housing? I posit it does not. Please leave the conservation to the experts at the district. We agree with the staff recommendation that affordable housing needs to be granted additional time, as the previous public commenter mentioned. The reality of building is that delays happen. We should not punish affordable housing developers for not being able to meet deadlines. We also agree that the feedback that reserving credits earlier in the development process makes it more likely that a project will actually move forward. Accountability makes sense to make sure that they are making progress, but they need the confidence to move forward in the first place, or else accountability doesn't even matter. The district has repeatedly advised that more water could be allocated, pending the use of current allocations. So please focus on deploying these current allocations as rapidly as possible. We understand the desire to prioritize affordable housing. However, predetermined allocation categories are problematic. In reference to the City of Monterey, based on their experience in actually approving and starting to build affordable housing in their jurisdiction, their staff urged their council to prioritize the most shovel-ready projects, quote, for these allocations, because otherwise much of the water would go unused. So please, I urge you again, remove the fixture limit. It doesn't help with the housing problem, and remove the predetermined categories. We need to move forward with whatever projects are viable and will actually proceed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Rose Clark. I am a local, and I'm also a realtor. Very impressed to be here for the very first time. So I was not going to speak, but one of the questions that I have is on the people on staff, how many of those people have ever owned a house? To know how much water is really needed in a house and make recommendations to all of you. We realtors live these questions on a daily basis. A house is a house, whether it's inside the city limits or an incorporated area. Builders are afraid to come to Monterey County because of all the restrictions. Housing is a big problem in our county. Please, please, I ask you to be one of the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your sharing with us. Anyone else that would like to share?
Good morning. My name is John Anzini, and I live in Carmel Valley. I'm just sitting here listening to this discussion. I'm here for the Carmel Valley Manor project that's going to be on, but I've been a builder in this area for since the 70s. And my comment is, if you have a certain size piece of property, and that certain size piece of property has a certain X amount of water allocation, like if you have a quarter-acre plot and you have a single-family house on that plot, that plot should be allowed a certain amount of water. Of course, you could put 20 families in one house, which could cause a problem. But if each plot has a certain amount of water allocated to it originally, which could be modified depending upon the size of the project that you propose for the development of that project, then once that limit is reached in the water usage for that specific piece of property, you can turn the water off or monitor it and then send code enforcement to see that changes are affected to correct the problem. If you have 10 acres and you put a 40-story building on it and it has enough water allocated for that piece of property, then you kind of eliminate the problem of counting fixtures and doing this, that, and the other thing. If in the original proposal, all of those things are considered initially. So maybe you should consider some kind of a solution that would affect everybody's property on the Monterey Peninsula, Carmel Valley, wherever, to make specifics as to how much water they actually have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else in the chambers want to share? Seeing no one else, Madam Clerk, is there anyone online that would like to share with us?
Yes, we have Irene Long through Zoom.
Thank you. Ms. Long, go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and staff, good morning. I have two scenarios I'd like to understand.
Hi, Irene. Irene, we can barely hear you. Are you able to speak up or move your mic?
Is that better?
That's better, yes.
A little better.
Okay. I have two scenarios I'd like to understand how they would be impacted by this policy. I live in a home that was built with a tankless water heater, and yet for generations, the water heater has been most households' backup emergency water for a disaster. So if I were to want to put in an inline storage tank.
Oops. Did we lose Miss Irene?
Irene, I'm sorry. We can't hear you. Could you check your mic? It looks like you're muted.
Muted, yeah. Okay, now it's unmuted me. Okay.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, so the first scenario would be I want to put just the tank in line in my water system before it gets to the heater because I have a tankless water heater. And that the purpose being to fill it up, have the water flow through it so that when a disaster happens and the water mains all break, that storage would be there. So I think of it as a pool that wouldn't have evaporation, okay, because it would be enclosed in the system. The second would be to use that on a larger scale because our school children, 5.8 million in the state of California, are on campuses that do not have disaster water supplies. So part of the mission of a project that I'm working on is to put disaster supply water on every campus because not only do those children need to stay there until they can be relieved, but the community disaster plans, without a doubt, also call on everyone whose house isn't safe to use the schools for shelter. So we have a double impact on our schools of a lack of water. And so I want to know what, if any, impact would this policy have on those goals?
Thank you. Do we have further, anyone else on Zoom?
We have no more hands up on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. All right then. Then we'll close public comment and we'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Deal, do you have something?
Yeah, unless staff wants to, no, I'm seeing a nod from Ms. Weichel. She doesn't have anything she wants to add, is that correct?
I don't have anything to add. I was going to, whenever it felt appropriate, take a stab at what staff's recommendation is.
Thank you. I was just actually noodling around the point brought up by Mr. Anzini because it's always been on my mind that what we ultimately like to do is to allow people the most possible flexibility within limits so that everybody has a fair shake. So if I only wanted to have one bathroom and hydroponic tomatoes, I could do that. Or if I wanted to have 3 bathrooms and only have sinks and toilets in them and no shower, I could do that, or whatever. So that people would have that kind of ability to make those decisions around their own property. We get our allocation in acre feet. The district is already fixture count heavy. I mean, they're going to go in and do their fixture count thing. Is there any way that we could, as Mr. Anzini discussed, say, okay, for a single-family residence, you get a 1/4 acre foot, however you want to deploy it. You got to get your water district permit. They'll deal with all that. But as far as we're concerned, we'll allocate that much and proceed from there. I see some enforcement problems. I can hear environmental health saying you can't cut off people's water. So that is, if people are going to ask forgiveness rather than permission, I can see that as an issue. And I can see an issue with failure in infrastructure. But is there any, what has staff's process been around trying to look at that way of allocation rather than trying to follow through with the fixture count approach applied by the Water Management District, in this case, already, I guess is the best I can do at a concise version of that.
Through the chair. So the fixture count process, I think staff was trying to utilize some of the existing forms that the public's already aware of, and in terms of kind of calculating the number of fixtures that could be allocated to, not fixtures allocated, but in a fixture unit count, because there is a conversion factor from fixture units to acre feet. We could change how the policy is written to note what the fixture count, because I believe the fixture count cap of 25 would be a quarter of an acre foot of water. I could be wrong because there's some math that needs to be done there. And so ultimately, we're trying to think about the policy in a user-friendly interface of, this is the form, this is how you would fill it out, these are the numbers that, based on this form, that you would be entitled to under the policy. One of the things I will also note is the Water Management District in their comments did provide some additional context on kind of usage that they had seen from a fixture perspective, with an average usage for single family homes about 0.29, it was I think about 0.29 acre feet, which I think translates to about 29 fixture units. So as Director Spencer noted too, and part of the input that could be provided by the Planning Commission is some additional direction on, should we have a fixture limit that's a little bit higher? Should we not have one? I mean, I know that's some of the questions you're asking, Commissioner Deal, and just wanted to provide the context of why it's written with fixture units versus an acre foot per unit type. Did that help answer your question or create more questions?
No, it's very helpful. Thank you. So to carry forward that conversation, I wonder if there's a way to say this is the fixture count worksheet that tells you how you get to a quarter acre foot. If you want to get to a quarter acre foot some other way or less, that's fine. If you don't get to a quarter acre foot, you still have a quarter acre foot, because that's the other half of what the district does. The district says however many fixtures you have, that's many you get, and if you only have 2, we're not going to give you any more. You have to go only down, because that's their approach. So I'm wondering if we could look at connecting the two more explicitly, perhaps, and leaving the restriction side to the district, which will then change how it governs based on the restrictions that are in front of it. So that was just one thought. I was very interested in Ms. Long's comment about reserve water for emergencies. That seems to me to be an interesting discussion, and if you have any thoughts of it, I'd certainly be interested in hearing that. My intuitive feeling is that storing water doesn't use water, but it kind of does.
In terms of that question, I'll be frank, I feel a little less prepared to answer that on the spot. I don't know if Director Spencer has any thoughts related to that. If not, we may need to do a little bit more research.
I think I don't need to have it answered. Okay. I just think it should be in the conversation going forward. So we make a note to talk to the emergency service providers and see if there's anything that maybe needs to be considered. And then I just want to make a comment about my understanding about what the fixture count does to add housing. And from my point of my understanding of what we're trying to do here is we're trying to look at adding housing that is going to be more likely to be affordable. And that's kind of pervasive through everything we're doing these days. And when you start looking at housing that wants to have 4 or 5 bathrooms, those are not generally affordable units as an individual house. And so I'm supportive of all the ways we can think of to encourage production of housing that will be more likely to be affordable by design rather than having a regulation that says how much something costs, which I don't think is a preferable way to go at it. So that's just in response to the issue raised, I think, by Mr. Pinter about what does it do to add housing. I think in my view, I'm hopeful, and maybe staff has a different view, but that it kind of is a way to prioritize building things that are more likely to be affordable and not I mean, we have a pretty good supply of high-end housing in this district, in the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, given that it incorporates a number of neighborhoods like Pebble Beach and Tehama and those sorts of things. We have a pretty solid supply of high-end housing, and we're trying to say the remaining water, we would like it to be for maybe less affluent families. So it certainly is possible that people would like to use more water, but am I correct in saying that this is sort of a way to prioritize and encourage housing that we hope will be affordable?
Through the chair, that is part of the intent of the fixture maximums, how the policy is currently written. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners?
And through the chair, unless there's just further discussion, I would like to hear Ms. Weichels what she would be recommending at this time.
And me too. I'm very interested in that. But it is 10:30 and time for a break. Ms. Weichel, would that be okay?
That is perfectly fine with staff.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
very good. 5 minutes, everybody. We'll be back. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Find yourself a comfortable seat. And we will begin in just a minute or two. As soon as Commissioner Deal joins us. Very good. Welcome back, everyone. And I believe that we were just to the part where staff was going to sum up for us their understanding of hopefully the direction we gave them. At least we hopefully have given them something good. So staff, when you're ready.
Yes, so staff wanted to clarify the recommendation today, and there may be a little bit of input or clarification that staff's requesting from the Planning Commission as part of this. So we have our standing recommendation, which was noted earlier, of considering and providing input. Staff's recommending consider and provide input on the draft policy for areas in an unincorporated Monterey County served by the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, with specifics on staff's requesting that the Planning Commission authorize staff to incorporate clarifying edits from the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District letter to ensure consistency with the rules and regulations of the service district. Specifically provide any additional input or direction on fixture maximums, either noting to staff that the draft policy is acceptable or provide staff further direction of changes to that discussion in the policy. Provide some additional direction to staff on if any changes to the policy are warranted related to water reservation versus water eligibility. And then and then the last piece would be in response to both the written and verbal comments that were provided to the Planning Commission and staff today, if there's specific areas that aren't covered in those three kind of buckets of areas, to provide further direction to staff on how the policy should be modified. Ultimately, wanting to get the Planning Commission's input and get the authorization to make changes as needed prior to going to the board. And the key kind of areas we came into today and that seem to be decision points are related to fixture maximums as well as reservation of water.
Thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you. And just maybe for clarification, I know that as far as the proposed policy amendment submitted by Mr. Orozco regarding reservation of water allocation and reservation term and milestones, et cetera, are some of these pieces already in what is currently written, or is it something that could be added or not added? So I wasn't sure, and I know that maybe we haven't had time or for you to look at it, but I guess my question would be, are some of this already in there in place, or are there some modifications that could be added based on some of the letters that we received and based on some of the proposed policy amendments, whether they may be good or not?
Through the chair, thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. Most aspects of this amendment are not necessarily addressed in the current policy. Upon quick review of the comments from Mr. Orozco, aspects of this could depend on the Planning Commission's direction of wanting to allow for reservation of water at the completeness stage. What staff noted in the staff report is that was specifically focused on land use entitled projects requiring a land use entitlement. If that is the desire of the commission to authorize staff to make those changes, there are probably aspects of this letter that we could look at for some inspiration on how to identify appropriate milestones and metrics for ensuring that projects move diligently through the approval process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Deal.
Thank you. Okay, I am going to suggest that we add at least a comment about the emergency question so that we have something in the policy that says emergency reservations of water, emergency supplies of water need to be considered separately, that staff include the idea of reservation, for want of a better word, for projects along the same lines as suggested by Landwatch and Mr. Orozco, so that we have a running tally of things that have been deemed complete and that they have benchmarks for moving those projects along. I liked the tighter timeline if that's feasible, but I understand that it may not be. So, but the idea being that I would want us to recommend that we do provide some certainty at the completeness point, along with some pretty strict accountability for progress, so that we don't tie that water up, as I think others have said. And I would, as we've just discussed, I'd like staff to consider, first off, I want to say I don't in any way feel staff has been arbitrary in the fixture count question. I mean, that is the opposite of arbitrary, and it's also something that the district does very diligently. But I would like for us to say something that makes it easier on our side, given that we have the backup on the district side, saying, this is your worksheet. If you want a single-family dwelling, you're going to have to come in under 0.25. I don't care how you do. Here's a worksheet to do that with, and you have to get your permit from the district. And if you're going to build an ADU, you need to come in under whatever that number is. However you want to do it, you still have to get your permit from the district. So, in other words, to give let us be the people who have a pretty simple-minded, for want of a better word, process and number, and we can keep count easily, because then we would take our quarter off of our available water, rather than be the district, which does its own job pretty well and changes according to the legal landscape in which it finds itself operating. So with those are three suggestions I would have to add to this. Editorial comment being, I'm going to move approval now in the hopes that, in the understanding that in the absence of the board providing specific direction to staff, the staff is left making political decisions, and that is not their job. So I really want to see the board step up, make the calls, give staff some operating room and guidelines to work within. If those guidelines are imperfect, I mean, heaven forfend, we should put something forward which is not perfect at first try. I mean, my goodness, that never happens. It is a policy. The board can change it. If someone has a worthy project they want to bring forward that doesn't conform to the guidelines, they can go to the board. The board can change that direction in that case. So with the recommendations that I've outlined here, assuming staff has any clue what they are, I would like to move staff's recommendation. that we recommend what they're recommending with those modifications, I guess.
We recommend what we just told them to do?
Well, what they just told us they'd like to do.
Okay.
Can I just briefly summarize through the chair?
Please
Just make
do.
sure I'm hearing.
Yeah, help me understand it if you would, please.
And thank you, Commissioner Deal. So insert some additional discussion about emergency water related uses and how that would tie into the policy. Do move forward and make the changes to the policy to allow for water reservation at time of completeness, and look at comments from Landwatch and Mr. Orozco to further refine the procedure section and help staff understand also the implementation side, because some of this may be more implementation, some of it may be more policy changes. And then lastly, for the fixture limits discussion, clarify it and really at a high level note just the acre feet usage per single family dwellings and ADUs, JADUs, and clarify that there's still permitting requirements for the district.
Almost, and I think it's in there somewhere. With the reservations, the part that I want carried forward is the reservation at the time the application is deemed complete is a worthy thing, but the progress benchmarks are critical. And we have a couple examples of those, and I would assume that staff would have its own thoughts about what those might be. But that going forward, if we are going to move with completion as the initial thing, we can't let that slide. Those have got to be tight. That's got to be the projects are moving. We've had projects that sit for decades, and this is not something that we're after in this case. So it's
understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, I think yes, I agree.
Good. Commissioner, we'll We'll start with the young lady, and then we'll go to you two guys. Commissioner Hartzell?
Just want to reiterate, I like the Orozco timelines, particularly because they have plain language and they're easy to use. I'm not tied to it, but I do like the plain language. And I'm stumping here for slightly more affordable housing in our district, and I do like the fixture limits for that reason, and I'm sticking with it. Other than that, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Commissioner Mendoza.
Just a quick question through the chair. The only question I have, based on the water we have available, what is the possibility that once 50% of the water has been allocated for whatever projects or what have you, has been allocated, if it can come back to the Planning Commission to kind of do an analysis to see how it worked out, to see if there's any adjustments or what have you that might need to be done at that time, you know, because right now we're allocating all the water. If we get it right, that's great. If 50% of the water has been allocated, then at that time, we'll look at it, and if it's working perfectly fine, then we continue doing what we're doing. If we need to adjust anything, at that time would be the time to adjust it, not when all of it has been allocated. There's really not a lot you can do at that point.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Work? No? Okay. Commissioner Gonzalez or Commissioner Shaw? Any further comments? Nope. Anyone online? No. Yes.
Can I just add one?
You may, in fact.
Through the chair. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to also clarify. I know Commissioner Hartzell identified some clarifying edits. Those would be included and cleaned up as part of staff's recommendation.
Thank you. All right. I think this is a reference. We don't need to vote on this, do we? I don't believe so.
If I may, through the chair, you do not have to take formal action. However, if you wish to convey a consensus vote or some form for staff to carry forward in support of what the direction was, then you can choose to take that. But no formal action and vote is required.
We don't seem to have consensus quite, so I'm not sure we can do that. But staff does have, they feel they have enough information to take it forward to the Board of Directors. Commissioner Deal?
I do have a motion on the floor, and I believe a second, and I would like to, we can clarify exactly what it is. I would like the board to understand that we're not completely split, and it's not like everybody for themselves. So even if we don't have consensus, I would continue to like to have a vote on this.
Okay.
And I would, and with respect to clarification on Commissioner Hartzell's, I'm not proposing that we do away with the fixture discussion. I'm just simply going to say that if you can get more fixtures in there without getting over 1/4 of an acre foot, I'm still all right with that. So I don't think you can, but if you can, you can. So I'm not. It's a question of whether you call it a limit or not. I don't care. So.
Yeah, and there's also, as you pointed out, still the fixture count that you have to jump through for the district, correct?
Yeah.
So we got that there. All right, well, there is a motion and a second, so we will take a vote. Those in favor of the motion, Commissioner Deal, would you mind summarizing your motion again for me so we make sure everybody knows what we're voting on?
Okay, I would like to support staff's recommendation with the additions and corrections that we've come to in this hearing.
Okay, very good. And Commissioner Hartzell, second, I believe.
Second.
Very good. All right, all those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
We have Commissioner Monsalve, so.
Oh, darn, I forgot about that. Pardon, Commissioner Monsalves, because of we have a remote member, we have to have a roll call vote. So we're going to have to go back and do this a little differently. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Getzelman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendoza,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartzell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes?
Commissioner Work,
Yes.
Commissioner Deal,
Yes?
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Monsalve.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your input. We appreciate everything, all the help we've received from the public today. And we'll move along to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 2, PLN number 030204, the UCP East Garrison LLC. Staff, when you're prepared, you may begin. Oh.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Getzelman. Staff received the request for extension and payment of fees on discretionary extension and therefore prepared Agenda Item 2 staff report to bring the decision to you, but it has come to staff and the applicant's attention since noticing that a term in the development agreement with UCP East Garrison states that extensions are automatic until 2035. Therefore, staff requests to remove the decision on Agenda Item 2 from the scheduled hearing agenda and deal with the extension request at staff level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Deal.
Yeah. Can we have council let us, give us some thoughts about what we do about the discontented public part of this? Because we've gotten a good deal of public comment about it, and clearly there's only limited action anybody can take. But is there any possibility we could inform those who are concerned about how they might best register those concerns going forward?
I would.
Oh, yeah.
What's that? I think it's more of a general staff, and you tell me if legally I go right. Okay. So staff has received quite a bit of public comment, or the commission did on this matter. Because this was an item that was on the agenda, and this has come to staff's attention, and we do have members of the public here wishing to comment, the commission could allow for the public to share their public comment, and where, to the extent that staff is able to respond to questions, just regarding status and other information, we could provide that information. I would note that staff is separately presenting at the East Garrison Community Services District meeting this evening, and so many of the questions and concerns that the public may have can also get addressed directly through community members participating in that meeting this afternoon. I would also say that communicating general questions, comments, concern, as the community has been through their supervisorial district, is another venue that staff does meet regularly with District 4 supervisors team as well, to make sure that we're keeping providing responses and information to the community.
Commissioner Deal.
Thank you. I didn't think we should get people's hopes up if we're going to have no ability to take any action. So I would, however, go back and subject to what the district representatives think, I do have a concern that the recommendations, the requirements that we made during our last consideration of the affordable housing piece of this development are not being met. And so there's got to be some way to get at that. But I would not be inclined to support a discussion that has no ability to have any action attached to it at the Planning Commission. And it sounds to me from staff that we have no handle. There's no reason for us to be weighing in.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Commissioner Shaw, I apologize. I missed your hand over there.
Thank you. I just have a question. Can someone explain to me what that extension, like, how did this happen? Why do they get an automatic extension? I'm very confused.
So there are provisions in state law that allow for development agreements to provide for automatic or other term extensions during the duration of the life of a development agreement. The county does not have many active development agreements, and so frankly, This was something that was simply missed both by applicant and their team and staff. The provisions in the decision, the development agreements were entered into in 2005. I don't recall the precise, in 2020, there was an amendment to the development agreement. So the board at that time supported an amendment that added some fees that went away with the dissolution of the Fort Ord Reuse Authority. So some fees were added. And at that time, the development agreement was extended to 2035.
Yes, please.
Another question. So the development agreement that allowed this automatic extension to happen can be amended? Or is that what I'm understanding, or am I totally wrong?
Yes, so development agreements may be amended by ordinance and with approval of the Board of Supervisors.
So another question then. So what would be the process to amend this, considering what I'm seeing here, in my opinion, warrants the county stepping in in some sort of way and not just saying, oh, well, it's till 2035, what can we do? Is that a possibility that like the public could petition in some way to have that amended? What would that process look like?
I actually don't want to respond to that because I don't know about petitioning changes to development agreements, as those are agreements that are heavily relied upon and entered into, but yes, could be changed. So I'm going to look to county council.
Would you like a lawyer?
I did, however, want to respond on a couple of items in terms of the status of the development and in particular with the affordable housing components. So with the approval of Amendment 2, which adjusted some of the final phase, that approval did realign a number of development triggers that ensure, for example, that the town center and those public benefit portions with the stacked affordable rental housing, that must move forward before too many of the market rate houses could be built, so as to ensure that those public benefits are moving forward concurrently with the private single family homes. Also there, and the developer and CHISPA, which is the nonprofit developer for the affordable housing in the town center, are actively moving forward with designs for that portion of the project. The other affordable components are a part of, so that is the workforce housing as well as the moderate income housing. Those are part of the Phase B. So town center and the rental affordable housing need to be completed before Phase B can commence. Those additional affordable components are embedded in the Phase B of this final phase that again must move concurrently. None of the kind of, and all of the conditions are triggered upon meaningful development steps such as recordation of final map, et cetera. So at this time, the developer has primarily been working on the conditions of approval related to parking, which was one of the greatest concerns that came up through the Board of Supervisors. And that information is imminent to be released for the public in the next couple of weeks. And then a community meeting, the second community meeting as deemed per that condition, will be held. That is an important condition in order for the remaining development and design work to move forward. So it has been a slowed process. It took quite a while to move forward with that condition, but otherwise there are activities happening, and that is imminent to come out for the community.
Commissioner Shaw, did that answer your questions?
I felt like I know you're probably going to repeat that at the meeting tonight, but I definitely appreciate that information, that clarification. And I still have the other question though. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Herzog? Oh.
That nod was that I don't have any questions.
Oh.
I presume you're looking to me at this point. Yes.
Oh.
So yes, the development agreement can be amended. It can be amended a number of ways. I'm not sure whether you'd find support at the board level for that. That would be where I would start at a discussion, whether that's like a referral or just a conversation that you have to determine and gauge interest, because obviously the board has the authority to amend the agreement. And I should also point out that a development agreement is a legislative act, which means in California it's subject to referendum, which meaning that if there was the will, you could, by an amendment, you could, by referendum, again amend the agreement, which is basically the power of the people, right, to circulate a petition and to get the kind of groundswell of agreement as to what that amendment would be. I will tell you that, of course, that creates a lot of complications for the county because when you enter into an agreement like this, people tend to invest and rely on those agreements in order to make progress on things. And if that's all shifted, people do suffer sometimes losses, and they seek contributions and recovery for those losses. So it's a sticky question, but the black and white of it is, yes, it is subject to being amended.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Did that do it for you? Cool. Any commissioners? Commissioner Deal, anything for you? No? So staff, what you'd like us to do is a continuation of this item, was that? No.
No, so officially, staff is pulling the item because there is no action before you today.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for clearing that up for me. All right. Very good. We'll move along.
Secretary needs to leave, so there'll be a swap, but it can happen.
I'm sorry?
I need to leave, so we're going to swap secretaries.
Oh. You mean I get somebody new to talk to? How nice. All righty. We're gonna take just a second to exchange secretaries, and then we will begin.
I think members of the public would like clarification on why the commission did not seek public comment because there is no matter today. That's what they're requesting.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to adjust
No, I think it's just adding that clarification to the public.
about the public? A lot of people showed up too.
So because there was no action and the Planning Commission did not open for public comment, there won't be public comment on that prior item for East Garrison. We have all of your questions, comments, concerns. I think the discussion was here to try to give some indication of where the public could potentially send those questions, comments, concerns productively forward. And again, staff will be at the CSD meeting this evening and will bring some clarification and as much information as we can at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benet. Did you bring your walker? And we welcome Ms. Jensen, the new secretary. And so we will begin with item number 3 on the agenda, PLN number 240141, the Carmel Valley Manor. And staff, when you're ready to begin, please do.
I am ready. Thank you, Chair Getzelman and Commissioner Steve Mason, to present PLN 240141, the Carmel Valley Manor project. Project site is located in the Carmel Valley Master Plan area, approximately 5 miles inland from the intersection of Highway 1 and Carmel Valley Road, located on Carmel Valley Road. Carmel Valley Manor was established, or rather opened in 1963 as a full-service retirement community. Staff would point out that this project is entirely consistent with the parameters established in the use permit as approved by the Planning Commission in 1960. For your consideration today is a combined development permit, which will include an administrative permit and design approval for the demolition of 3 residential units, 7 guest units, 4 carport structures, a wood shop, and the construction of 19 residential units, 8 guest units, a 12-bed memory care facility, and additions to the existing fitness center and meeting house. There's also a use permit for development on slopes over 25% and a use permit for the removal of 61 oak trees. This site plan points out these structures to be demolished. Labeled as number 1 are the 3 residential units. 2 of these are in a duplex and 1 is a single-family dwelling. Number 2 are the 7 guest units. 6 of these are consolidated in the northwest corner in 2 triplex buildings. Number 3 are the 4 carport structures, and number 4 is the wood shop building in the southeast corner of the property. This site plan shows the proposed construction. Labeled as number 1 are the 2 sites for the new residential units. In the northwest corner would be 10 condominium-style units. In the southeast corner would be the 9 duplex units with attached garage. These are known as the hillside duplex units. I'll be referring to these again in a moment. Number 2 are the 8 guest units, also consolidated in the southeast corner. Number 3, the memory care facility. Number 4, the expansion of the fitness center. This would be a 1,980 square foot expansion. The existing building at number 4, the cross-hash section is the existing building. The solid blue would be the new addition. The same holds true for number 5, the addition to the meeting house, 1,650 square feet. And in the southeast corner, number 6 would be additional parking and the relocation of the dog run and the community garden. So the net changes resulting from this project would be 16 additional independent living units, bringing the total to 169 on site. Note that the original use permit allows for 172 independent living units. 1 additional guest unit for a total of 8 on site, and 12 additional assisted living beds for 72 beds, so to speak, on site. And these are broken into 3 different categories. 36 are skilled nursing, 24 assisted living, and the 12 new beds would be in a memory care facility. Also, 60 additional parking spaces, bringing the on-site total to 334. As you'll note from the staff report, this was formerly the site of the Noel Sullivan Estate, which had a very interesting history. Most of the structures, unfortunately, burned down in 1962. These originally were planned to be integrated into the manor, but the fire ended that plan, although an adobe cottage and a small chapel made of stone masonry did survive, probably by the virtue of not being made of wood, and these remain as is. Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, or SOAM for short, are a very well-known Chicago-based architectural firm. They designed the original structures for Carmel Valley Manor. Some of their better-known projects globally are the Sears Tower in Chicago, which was formerly the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which is currently the world's tallest building, and also the Disney headquarters in Burbank and the terminals at Chicago O'Hare Airport, among many other projects. They typically specialize in modernist design, and modernist typically features functionalism, minimalism, and subdued or no ornamentation. Most of these original structures are centralized within an area known as the core campus area. There are 4 residential clusters highlighted by the 4 yellow stars, and these all contain a central courtyard surrounded by 4 residential buildings. This is a view of one of the residential buildings from the courtyard. It shows some of the noteworthy design features, matching roof pitch, paired massing, and pass-through walkways. Staff would note that all of the demolition and nearly all of the new development will occur outside of this original core campus area. The meeting house is one of the signature buildings on site. It's used for plays, musical performances, and such, and this project proposes a bump out to the rear section of the structure, which is the least visible area, and this is to improve functionality for a backstage area and additional storage. A fitness center addition is proposed, and staff would note this has been redesigned at the suggestion of the Historic Resource Review Board to include paired massing and matching roof pitch features. Staff would point out this is not meant to mimic the original structures, but rather to be more compatible with them. The majority of the tree removal and development on slopes will occur in the southeast corner to accommodate the 8 guest units and the 9 hillside duplex units. Specifically, 53 of the 61 oaks to be removed would come out at this location, and 31,000 square feet of development and slopes would occur here. These are highlighted in red in the site plan to the right. There's no real feasible alternative to this site, as the only other open area on site, which is relatively level, is compromised by the 100-foot structural setback from Carmel Valley Road and the existing maintenance yard. Staff would also point out that the footprints have been consolidated to minimize impact. The photo on the left is from 1963 when the Manor opened. Photo on the right from approximately the same angle from last year. You'll notice the 1963 photo has very few oak trees, and this is because most were cut down during construction and replanted with seedlings at that time. The arborist is recommending 43 replacement trees for the 61 removals, and this is due to the fact this is approximately 2 to 3 in lieu of the standard 1 to 1. And this is due to the fact the trees on site are already very dense, and there are concerns about fire-related fuel loading risks with more trees or more density of trees. The manor has adequate water credits and will be served by an existing connection to the public sewer system. According to the Transportation Study Commission for the project, the manor currently generates approximately 715 daily trips. This project would generate an additional 65 daily trips. The 3 closest intersections will continue to operate at an acceptable level of service and will not require signalization. This is a view from the side of the hillside duplexes, the closest construction to Carmel Valley Road. Facing towards Carmel Valley Road, notice the flagging and staking in the upper left. There's not really a direct line of sight because of the trees fronting Carmel Valley Road, and this is a reverse angle from Carmel Valley Road facing towards this flagging and staking. You notice there's a very narrow window of sight, a direct line of sight, and really for all intents and purposes, most of the structures in Carmel Valley Manor are not visible from Carmel Valley Road, and this may sound counterintuitive, but I think in a sense that's kind of too bad because it's very unique architecture. Anyhow, a mitigated negative declaration was circulated from March 1st through April 2nd. All the mitigation measures in this document have been carried over to the conditions of approval in their original form. As for general plan consistency, Land Use Policy LU 1.9 prioritizes infill of vacant lands in existing developed areas, which basically summarizes this project. The project also directly addresses 2 of the policies within the housing element, specifically H 2.1, recommending that we plan new residential development, including housing for seniors, and policy H 5.3, to provide equal access to housing and supportive services to meet the special needs of seniors. Staff would point out that the 2020 census indicated approximately 90,000 seniors age 60 and over in Monterey County, and this figure is expected to approach 110,000 or 25% of the county population by 2030. This project was reviewed by the Carmel Valley LUAC on July 21st of last year, at which time they recommended approval of the project 5-0. 2 minor addendums to the resolution. One would be under Finding 2 Consistency. Site Development Standards Evidence F should include the passage highlighted in red, and this is pointed out already in the staff report on page 10, but that there is a 1 foot 8 inch appurtenance above the 30-foot maximum height to accommodate an elevator shaft on one of the structures, but this is allowable pursuant to Code Section 2162030, which allows height and setback exceptions for mechanical appurtenances. Also, a correction to Finding 6, Tree Removal Evidence A, should indicate 3 landmark oak trees to be removed and not 2. One additional item I would point out, condition number 15 and condition number 17. Those are the Carmel Valley Master Plan Area Traffic Mitigation Fee and the Regional Development Impact Fee. The applicant is currently in discussion with the Public Works Department as to whether these fees are going to be necessary according to fees previously paid and credits for some demolitions. It's a fairly complex matter that is being worked out as we speak between Public Works and the applicant. So staff, per the applicant's request, would add, if deemed necessary, to the front of both of these, the body of both of these conditions. And so, including these 2 changes to the conditions and the 2 changes to the resolution, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission approve the combined development permit, including an administrative permit and design approval for the demolition of existing structures and the construction of 19 residential units, 8 guest units, a memory care facility, and additions to the fitness center and meeting house use permits for the development on slopes and removal of 61 oak trees, and adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan. This concludes staff's presentation. I'll be available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Do we have questions for Mr. Mason? Commissioners? Commissioner Deal.
Yes, thank you. I'm not finding it right now, but I think we received a letter from MST with respect to bus stops.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
I don't know, I must have put it in the wrong place, but I just wanted to ask if staff had a chance to look at that and make sure that we address any concerns they may have for continued good bus coverage. I know a lot of employees use the buses to get to that place.
Through the chair, is this in regard to one of the comments on the CEQA document, or is this a letter that was received? Because I'm not immediately familiar with this.
I believe it was a letter that, I think I saw it last night via email, and I can't find a copy of it here today, but that could be because I'm confused. The chair has a copy.
Yeah, it was on the dais when I got here. It's the one with the yellow thing on the front, and then if you flip it over, the letter from MST is printed on the back side.
If we can give Mr. Mason a copy of it, I just want to highlight it so that it's addressed in the course of this hearing.
Yeah. It was part of a mental acuity test they did earlier.
And I failed utterly, so thank you.
Through the chair, and I'm just reviewing this very quickly, but on the subject of what I believe this covers, I would point out there are shuttle services already provided by the manor. And excuse me, I'm scanning this very quickly to see if there's a specific question here.
And through the chair, staff has read the letter, and it does, MST is just requesting that it be noted that there is a nearby bus stop, line 24, that does service this area and is within walking distance of the manor. So staff doesn't feel there's any additional changes or amplification needed, but is happy to make minor edits to the resolution if desired. And it does appear they're requesting for some future communication going forward, and staff can take that request.
Thank you. I took away from it that there was a concern around disruption of their bus stop during construction. And so I'm wondering if that could be just mentioned in the construction management plan, that we'll make sure that there's a bus stop.
Thank you. Duly noted.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Commissioners, fellow commissioners, anyone? Nope, very good. All righty. Then we will open up the open up the hearing to public comment.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Joel Panzer with Maureen Ruck Planning Consultants here this morning to represent Carmel Valley Manor and DBA, or vice versa, Northern California Retirement Homes, Inc. Attending today and available if questions do come up are Jay Zimmer, President and CEO, John Haupt, the Director of Capital Planning, Chris Regan, Chief Operating Officer. With us also from Perkins Eastman is Ashley Chung, our Architect and Project Manager, as well as Amy Chang, and Kathleen Ventimiglia Hope I haven't butchered that. And she's also a board member. As evidenced by the staff report, there's a number of elements with the master plan project we would like to present. We ask the Planning Commission for their indulgence to grant us the adequate time to be able to do so, but we will be mindful of our time to keep you on a good lunch schedule, I guess. So with that, let me introduce Ashley Chung.
Hello, good morning. I'm Ashley Chung with Perkins Eastman. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to review the project together. We will be walking through the master plan with special attention to 3 use permit requests for your review. We'll be touching on the use permit request for Planning Commission's design control approval as we walk through the proposal and conclude on overall site level use permits for development on slopes greater than 25%, as well as tree removal. I'll now pass it on to Jay Zimmer, our President and CEO of Carmel Valley Manor, also referred to as the Manor, to introduce the project and the community.
Thank you, Ashley. Chairman Getzelman, commissioners, thank you for giving us the time to present our project today. I'll be very brief. The one key missing component on our campus has to do with the memory care unit, the 12 beds that we're recommending. There's a critical shortage of memory care beds in the county, and having these 12 additional beds will help to reduce, or increase that capacity significantly. Our residents, seeing the need for memory care, or acknowledging the need for memory care, on their own, took up a capital campaign and raised $5 million toward the construction of that unit. So it's very high on our priority list, and hopefully you'll agree. The other components of the plan, the additional apartments, we have a 2-year waiting list at the Manor, and this will help to reduce that wait list significantly with the 19 new apartments. Adding the amenities at the meeting house will allow us to make that that building ADA accessible, and the expansion of the fitness center will allow us to bring a more modern and state-of-the-art wellness center onto the campus. Joel already has introduced our team. All of our consultants are online should you have any questions this morning. We've been a good neighbor and a significant employer over these last 63 years, and moving this project forward will allow us to become sustainable for hopefully the next 60 years. So I thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions later in the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jay. And so as our planner, Steve, has so kindly given a very comprehensive overview of the project, we'll take a step back in time to the 1960s. The project was actually constructed between 1962 and 63. With the 60th anniversary 3 years ago. This is actually a postcard from the 1960s, and these are photos taken right after construction in 1963. The zoomed-in version is actually a zoomed-in version of the northeast view on the backside of the meeting house, highlighted here. It shows the presence of several pine and conifer tree types and very few oak trees present at this area of the property. We'll circle back to this area at the end of our presentation. The project was originally entitled for 172 units, and as the units adapted to growing resident needs and wants, the Manor currently stands at 146 units today. This is an aerial of what the Manor looks like present time. The Manor still remains committed to offering resident needs and levels of care across independent living, referred to as IL, assisted living, AL, skilled nursing facilities, SNF. As Jay had mentioned, the level of care that the master plan recognizes as a need to provide for the community is memory care. At this moment in time, I'll also point out the loop road, which I've highlighted on the presentation. This is a key element in how it connects the entire campus. It's the main entryway and the exit point onto Carmel Valley Road towards the south. The loop road also circles the core campus, and it's the historic spot where all of the common amenities are. We have the existing one-floor fitness center as well as the meeting house, which will be upgraded and expanded as part of the master plan. And going clockwise, we have the Hillcrest AL Assisted Living, Health Center SNF, and we also have existing single-family homes off of Los Arboles Road, which will remain as they are presently, and with the majority of the IL units encircling the loop road. The dashed lines here will illustrate existing access to the Los Arboles properties, and they connect the residents to the larger campus. Vehicular access to Carmel Valley Road will be only available for the residents and staff off of Los Arboles Road, and the rest of the campus only possible through the loop road and out onto Carmel Valley Road. So the main reason why we're here today, this is a snippet from the original 1960 use permit. Given present-day unit and campus standings, the manor would like to come closer to the original entitlement of 172 independent living units from their current 146. We've also come to the Planning Commission to request design control approval of the buildings included as part of this presentation. The master plan proposal is guided by these goals. At number 1 in magenta, we have the proposed siding of the memory care building. For 2 and 3, we have the fitness center and the meeting house additions. And for number 4, to meet market demands and to rebalance our unit count, we have similar IL unit configurations at the hillside and the upper sites highlighted in orange. To address goal number 5, the guest units for friend and family visitors of residents have been consolidated at this southeast portion of the site. This is also where we will have new parking, relocated dog run and gardens, stormwater treatment, and also a new trash enclosure. As Steve had mentioned earlier, this is our proposed demolition plan with all of the key elements highlighted in gray. And this is the final proposal. We'll be walking through the presentation as guided by a proposed phasing diagram. We'll go through the memory care in blue, and then we'll go through the IL units together at the hillside, at the upper site. And then we'll circle back to the southeast portion for the guest units, the relocated dog run in the garden, and finish with the fitness center and the meeting house additions. This is what the campus currently looks like from above on the bottom right corner. It's a cohesive collection of buildings, and they resemble a medieval village with shed and gable forms. It's really stark and it's really beautiful in contrast to the mountainous landscape, and it's a very beautiful, beautiful campus. They also have the similar and consistent stucco material and color across all of their buildings and the same asphalt roof shingles. As part of the master plan proposal, we will be designing all of the buildings to match the existing campus with regards to exterior building materials. This will allow them to blend in within the overall fabric of the campus. We'll begin with the proposed Phase 1 memory care. This is a site plan, and its location is taken into consideration with the adjacencies of the existing skilled nursing building as well as the AL building. It has been cited with respect to the overall campus layout, and a duplex will be demolished to make way for the building. Next, we'll have Chris Regan, our Director of Operations, to come up to speak on the importance of having a dedicated space and program for the memory care.
Thank you. Hi. Good morning. I affirm with Jay that our campus recognizes the value of having a standalone memory care unit. I imagine many of us, or not all of us, have been affected by those with memory challenges and recognize the unique needs of those individuals. We aim to treat our residents all with dignity and respect, and we feel this would enhance and give us the opportunity to do that. We know that in our programming, dementia care, memory care programming is important. We can do that specifically in that space. Programming like music and memory, art therapies, pet therapies. The design that you will see further on, we value biophilia, the idea of getting individuals from the inside out or having natural light come in. That's important to us. We are a Blue Zones approved work site, so we value wellness, therapy, getting outside. So truly, in my work, I'm a nurse as well, and I see over and over how dementia really affects families, individuals, and we aim to treat with dignity. And we feel like this memory care unit will do that for our campus. Thank you. Are there any questions, or wait till last? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And this is a slideshow for all the proposed elevations that go along with the plan that we just looked at. Next, we'll circle back to the Loop Road to talk about the IL housing. It's a community amenity that goes and encircles the campus, and it is where the residents will often walk along for exercise, and it's also the means through which they exit their independent living units, they cross the road, and then they go into the core campus where all of the wellness amenities are, such as fitness and dining at the main pavilion. Maintaining this immediate connection off of the Loop Road for all of the independent living units for the siting of the hillside and the upper locations were of utmost priority for our master plan. The existing IL units are duplexes with gable roof forms, and the proposed building forms will be in duplex or triplex configurations to echo the original SOM master plan logic while balancing site needs. We'll take a closer look at the southeast corner of the site where the hillside units are. It currently has a very steep grade, so it will have to step along with the slopes to navigate them. And there are gable roofs that will be maintained, as well as individual entry and garage access immediately off of the Loop Road. On the bottom is a perspective elevation of what those units may look like off of the Loop Road. A preliminary plan and accompanying elevations are shown for the far right triplex configuration. Despite stepping up the grade, this array of units in this duplex or triplex configurations will help it read cohesively at the hillside location. Next, we'll move on to the northwest portion of the site to talk about the upper IL units location. This is the existing connections from Los Arboles to the Loop Road at these two current locations highlighted. And for the upper IL site, we will be proposing two-story structures in a triplex and duplex configurations. The unit size will remain consistent and uniform with what we've proposed at the hillside location to be in alignment with master plan goal number 4. The plan organization also echoes existing two-story unit plans on campus, and the shed roofs will angle upward toward the mountain to maintain consistency to the form. We just talked about the upper IL units at this northwest location, and it currently is where existing guest units are. As a result, we will be consolidating all of the guest units at the southeast portion of the site. This is a preliminary plan and elevation of those guest units, and they, again, will be for family and friends of residents. This will also be the site of new parking, as well as relocated dog run and resident gardens. To the north of parking will be a new recycling and trash collection site. This concludes the second and third proposed phase of the master plan project. For the final proposed phase of the fitness center and the meeting house additions, we must first look at the wellness programs at the manor. At the very beginning of the master plan process, we actually did a survey to see what the residents may want or need in terms of wellness programs, and it totaled 25,000 square feet, which with respect to the scale of this campus is very quite large and out of scale. And so after this analysis, it was determined that all of the wellness programs actually need to be dispersed within the campus, but specifically around the Loop Road. Let's take a closer look at the existing fitness center location highlighted here with respect to the addition that we are proposing. We have a campus diagram. What's highlighted in yellow are existing circulation paths, and in green are the courtyards that are created. So there's 2 levels of courtyards that are created. Firstly, there are 2 independent living buildings that come together to form an internal courtyard, which I'll highlight here, and then pairs of buildings will come together in a pinwheel formation to create an even larger community space. To complete the diagram across from the first floor fitness center, we've proposed an L-shaped 2-story addition highlighted in red. This is located with respect to adjacent building footprints and to avoid overlap. In 3 dimension, we can see the existing 1-story fitness center with its gable roof within the context of 1-story and 2-story IL buildings. You can really see how these pairs of buildings each have a shed roof, and they come together to form a larger gable unit. In discussion with the HRRB subcommittee comments and their feedback, rather than only renovating the interior of the fitness center, which is existing 1-story, a portion of the roof line will be sloped up, and so that together it can not only mitigate the height perception and the scale of the 2-story addition, but it also works together to create one larger form. This is the accompanying plan proposed with those elevations. And then we'll end the walkthrough with the meeting house addition highlighted here. This is a historic building from the original SOM campus. It's integral to the community gathering and function where exercise classes are held, line dancing, lectures, and theater performances. There are currently 3 access points to the meeting house, and the addition is located off of the back side. This is tucked away within an upward slope so as to minimize the secondary form as much as possible. After receiving the HRRB subcommittee's comments, our massing proposes to pop up the back portion, which is a back of house green room area, and it will be held to match the existing roof line. There is a connector piece which will be held at a lower height, and it will serve as a hyphen between the old and the new. This hyphen is also seen in plan. I've highlighted it in blue. This will be the connection between the meeting house as well as the back of house and green room areas. As part of the proposal and to expand community usage of the meeting house, the platform will also be deepened, which will benefit any future performances. Previously, you could only access the platform via 2 steps, so now we will be proposing an accessible ramp, also make accessible the bathrooms, and introduce a pantry program so as to warm food for future dining functions. In our 2D elevations, we can see the hyphen connection highlighted in blue. It's held below the roof line, as well as the higher massing of the green room beyond. This concludes our walkthrough of the master plan proposal with special attention to use permit request of design control approval. Next, we have our second use permit requests for development on slopes greater than 25%. They're highlighted in this red color, and it totals an area of 0.66 acres. A lot of the slope areas for this use permit is concentrated at the memory care site, the hillside IL guest units, as well as the upper IL units. And lastly, we have the use permit requests for tree removal at those exact same 3 sites. 61 oak trees have been identified for removal, although 35 are less than 13 inches in diameter at breast height, and 11 of which are currently in poor health. So to circle back to the original construction photo, these oaks to be removed are not naturally occurring, and this is a snippet from Rob Thompson, our arborist's report. We've noted that these oaks are not previously planted, are not naturally occurring, and to summarize with Steve's overview, we will be requesting the reduced number of 43 oak plantings for mitigation at the 2-to-3 ratio. And so this concludes our review of the master plan proposal, and I'll now pass it on to Joel for any concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission, for your indulgence. I just wanted to then conclude from a planner's perspective. We did submit an applicant letter with some errata, I think, for the purposes of what my comments today. In the resolution and in the conditions of compliance, there is one assessor parcel number that is missing. Just to make sure that everything is really clear in the record, we ask that one APN be added. The site acreage should reflect 25.75 acres. So we want to just tidy that little detail up. Finding number 7, it would be helpful. Elsewhere in the resolution, there's a reference to the 25% slope evidence with the infill development and so forth. It might be worthwhile to reiterate that in that specific finding. As again, we've finding 7 and then following my notes, I've got condition 7, which goes back to trees. It talks about trying to minimize roots and soil disturbance within trees. We do have, as you saw in Ms. Chung's presentation, a fairly condensed site, and I'm just wondering if that can be clarified to not exceed disturbances to root zones in more than a third of the drip line. Yeah, that's sort of similar to criteria in Monterey County Code section 21.64.260.D1, where it talks about not trimming more than a third of the live canopy. I'm not saying that we want to impact trees, but I think that there may be instances where, just given the nature of the site and the proposed construction, we might need a little bit of a leeway. So I'd ask for your consideration for that. Conditions 16 and 17 were in agreement with staff's recommendation. In my research, I found about 180 units, building permits issued for 180 units on the totality of the site that we've been discussing today. The proposed project, as Ms. Chung noted, will bring that number down to 169. Although there were consolidations over time, and I think the current unit count might be 148. So that's a discussion we're going to have with the Public Works Department. What's the baseline? And against that baseline, where do you charge fees for new residential construction? Interestingly enough, page 11 of Exhibit A of the staff report provides staff's impression on compliance with the inclusionary housing ordinance. And it says because the 1960 approval predated the establishment of that ordinance, it doesn't apply here. Similarly, in 1992, the county adopted the Carmel Valley Traffic Impact Fee. In 2018, TAMC adopted their regional traffic impact fee. So that's a conversation that Mr. Mason was referring to in terms of us pursuing with Public Works. So we're fine with his proposed solution to that by adding, if applicable, to those two conditions. I did also want to know some of the conditions have a timing or mitigation monitoring compliance step that tells us what to do. I just wanted to reiterate for the public record that there will be various project phases. So individual construction management plans and other actions will take place piece by piece by piece. So it wouldn't be like we'd have one master solution for the entirety of the project. It'll be broken up by phases when we can comply with conditions down the road. Two other things, and then I'll conclude. Condition 23, item number 3, has a recommendation for installing acoustic blankets and quilts. I would just state that that's not feasible. A number of the buildings are about 30 feet in height. Constructing and trying to maintain a 30-foot high sound wall, it's going to be expensive. When you have wind, depending on the time of the year that we're doing this, that's problematic. Depending on where they're installed on the upper IL units, you might block solar access. So I'd ask if the commission would consider deleting that. And then there's a reference to Carmelo Preschool, which sits like 15 feet below the hillside units, so an acoustic sound wall wouldn't really buffer the sound from the school. And then finally, condition 23 and 24, I can read the black and white and interpret it two different ways. What I think staff is saying is that we need to avoid the drop-off and pickup times at the school, not try to avoid construction or sound generating activities while school's in session. School's in session from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it operates from August through June. So that's pretty limiting. I just want to, for the record, to clarify, if we're just talking about managing our internal construction to avoid sort of the peak commute times, if you will, we're in agreement with that, but I just wanted to have staff respond to that. And then finally, what I think the MST letter is intended to say is if our construction traffic interferes or causes traffic delays, they're asking the applicant to coordinate with MST. We're not doing any work on Carmel Valley Road. We're not affecting the bus stops. We're not proposing a bus stop. So I think that's what MST staff is asking for. So with that, I'd conclude by saying we've read the staff report, the draft resolution, and conditions of approval. With our clarifications today, we're in agreement, and we would ask the Planning Commission to approve the project with the minor amendments we've suggested, adopt the mitigated negative declaration, and approve the project. Thank you. If there's any public comments, we'd like to respond. And other than that, we appreciate the diligence Mr. Mason has gotten to get this project to hearing in a very timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Panzer. All right, then let's move along judiciously, and we'll go to public comment. Is there anyone in the room that would like to comment on this project in the chambers? Just give us your name, if you would, sir.
John Anzini. I'm a neighbor directly to the southwest of the Carmel Valley Manor. And we had a little bit of controversy when the project was first proposed. And I would like to thank the manor for working with the public to maintain the rural character of Carmel Valley by choosing not to demolish several of the residences on Los Arboles Road. And my further comment is at the bottom of Los Arboles Road, where it connects to Carmel Valley Road, there's a bus stop that was put in by MST. During the course of the construction of that bus stop, there was an existing drain line that went across the old Carmelo School, across the fire department, and went into a drainage culvert that goes to Carmel River. Since that work has been performed and that bus stop installed, flooding has occurred at the base of the road where Carmel Valley Road hits Los Arboles Road. I know that they're going to do some work down there, but it seems to me that if they reinstall the culvert the way it used to be or modify it in some way, shape, or form, it would prevent flooding at the base of the road, because a lot of cars that are very low nowadays that are going through there, it doesn't bother my truck or anything, the trucks or anything like that, but it causes flooding that is elevated to the point where it could enter a car that's very low. So if that would be taken into consideration in whatever bus stop situation applies to that area, it would be greatly appreciated by the people who live on Los Arboles Road, which is directly adjacent to the manor. Other than that, thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the chambers that would like to comment? Seeing no one coming forward, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone online?
We have no hands up on Zoom.
Oh, no. Okay.
Now we do.
Oh, now we do. Okay.
We have Brian Clark.
Mr. Clark.
Good afternoon. Planning Commission. Thank you. I was really just curious. Carmel Valley Manor has been purchasing several adjacent single-family homes to the manor and incorporating those, I guess, obviously into the manor. I was curious how their use permit looks at buying adjacent single-family homes and, in essence, extending service into private residential neighborhoods and absorbing those single-family neighborhood into the manor. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Carmel Valley Manor guest.
Whoever you are, Carmel Valley Manor guest, it's your turn.
You are able to speak as you're not muted.
Well, maybe they changed their mind. Maybe they don't want to talk to us after all.
We're trying to unmute you. Can you hear us now?
Oh, now we can. Yes. Very good, sir. Go right ahead.
Thank you. There's three of us here. My name is Lawrence Finch, and we moved to the manor 11 years ago with my wife, who passed away 6 years ago. The manor has been a responsible, wonderful place for us. And the new apartments and Dimension Center will offer modern, attractive living for the seniors in the community who are on our waiting list. The resulting income will add to our financial position and allow us to continue to upgrade and improve campus facilities and ensure the manor's long-term future. Thanks for your consideration in this matter. And I'll turn the mic over to Mary Syerson, who is a member of the board of directors of Carmel Valley Manor and a long-term resident.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. As Larry said, I'm Mary Syerson. I'm a past president of the resident council and currently the resident representative to the board of directors, and I have been almost 11 years, which I consider a real privilege, and I'm delighted to be here. I wanted to comment about a couple of things. One is that by increasing the number of units we have, it would be very helpful because we have a 2-year waiting list, and that certainly would have some effect on that. Also, by enhancing our amenities, would give a greater opportunity for those generations that join us for additional active living. Each generation seems to be maybe a little bit more active than the previous from what we're observing. And really, most importantly in my mind, is that the addition of the memory center will really assist us in transitioning to different aspects of the manor in providing the most comfortable and supportive living conditions for whatever stage of life you have reached. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Let's
ma'am.
pass it off to Dr. Jack Enbaum, who's a resident here at the manor.
Good morning. I'm John Enbaum, a retired physician and a resident of Carmel Valley Manor for 12 years, in support of the memory care unit. As you've already heard, in a remarkable display of generosity and community spirit, Carmel Valley Manor residents have come together and raised an impressive $5 million for the Memory Care Center. This achievement reflects the deep commitment of the residents to the support of those affected by memory loss and ensure that Carmel Valley Manor continues to provide vital care, innovative programs, and comprehensive services. These contributions will help fund a new facility and will have a lasting impact on countless lives. The dedication of Carmel Valley Manor residents truly illustrates the power of collective action and the importance of honoring those touched by memory-related challenges. And having been a resident and patient in the health center and
Wrap this up by 12:30.
a wife who was as well, I highly recommend support for this area. Thank you very much.
Back to me. Thanks very much for hearing our message, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. All righty. Very good. Is there anyone else? I'm sorry I didn't move on too quickly there. Was there anyone else?
No hands up on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Panzer, did you have anything that you wanted to reply to or make comment about in that?
Yes, and again, being mindful of the time, let's see, to go back to response to Mr. Clark's comment. So the 1960, if we can get the overhead slide up, please. Yeah, there we go. So the 1960 approval anticipated a density scheme of 7.5 units, or a density of 7.5 times the number of acres contained in the area of land. Now, and that's why one of the purposes of me speaking earlier is the campus is grown, as Mr. Clark has pointed out. The ultimate density, what this permit will do is it'll memorialize, if you will, the 6 adjacent properties Carmel Valley Manor has purchased. It's still under the 172.5 or 172.5 units. So it's really intended, who knows how things occurred over time, but it's really intended to bring the current campus master plan back into full conformance of this permit. And presumably, if Carmel Valley Manor purchased adjacent properties, they'd have to come back before the Planning Commission or Housing and Community Development to ask for an amendment, either by acreage or by a unit. But that was really one of the underlying intents, was to sort of really clean things up here and get it back into conformance with the original approval. So hopefully that was responsive to the gentleman's comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Actually, it's left me confused. Mr. Panzer?
Don't confuse us.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. The listing of the acreage varies. And we have a listing in the letter from Carmel Valley Manor says there's an exhibit that says it's 22.57 acres, and it's a typo, and it should, I think, say that it's 25.75 acres, which is more than 23 acres. So now I'm confused.
That's correct. So what's occurred over time, as you've heard from speakers and Mr. Zimmer, there's just been a demand for accommodations at the facility. So when adjoining properties have come up, and I think this goes back to the 70s, another property in the 80s, and more recently, I think 2 properties last year, they've taken the opportunity to acquire them. And one of the intents of this use permit is to memorialize, if you will, what that acreage is. So the 60 permit anticipated, how do I want to say, land acquired by the applicant up to a total of 23 acres. We're letting the Planning Commission know, as it stands now, the total acreage controlled by Northern California Congregational Homes is the 25.75. So I would think that there would be an amendment, if you will, for me to sort of think out of the box here, to memorialize that's the current acreage. But in terms of density, we're still at or just below the approved density from 1960. So that was 172 units, and we'll be at 169. So it's kind of, over time, it's been 65 years. Conditions have changed. We're trying to wrap that up and make it nice and clean through this permit application. Hopefully that was responsive to the question.
I'm still confused. Plain language here says up to 23 acres. If it's now more than 23 acres, you can't make it consistent with the original use permit without addressing a change in the original use permit, which I didn't see here. So that's why I'm confused. I mean, we're looking at the language right now.
Well, yeah, so I'm in agreement. So the acreage is increased, the number of units are consistent with the 1960 approval. And again, I would suppose that it's the commission has the ability to update some aspect of the 60 permit to make it consistent with the master plan that's been described to you today consists of.
Thank you. I'll leave my question for staff.
All righty. Any other questions, Mr. Panzer? No, I'm sorry, sir. We've closed that part of the meeting. Sorry. Anyone? Nope. Okay. Staff, do you have any, would you like to respond to anything that the applicant, any?
Through the chair, yes, I would. Thank you. Okay. First of all, regarding condition number 7 for the tree removal, or the drip line around tree removal, I'll just quote my direct, I've already responded to these. For that, I would say circumstances which do not allow for full protective fencing around drip lines are not uncommon, as most, if not all, county-approved arborists are aware. The key language is that said protection be approved by a certified arborist. Put another way, we would not expect protective fencing to block a roadway or a driveway or something to that effect. This is not uncommon, and all the arborists that approve drip line protection, or rather the tree protection, are aware of this. Second, number 23, regarding the soundproofing, and I quote, note that this generally refers to soundproofing around noise emanating from ground-based equipment. 30-foot sound walls are not expected, nor will they be required. Condition number 24, regarding Carmelo School. The wording, quote, where feasible is included in the language already. High noise, quote, high noise activities near Carmelo Preschool Child Development Center should be, where feasible, scheduled outside of regular school hours. Also, construction hours are noted, and Monday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday rather. No work shall occur on Sundays or holidays, and I added, it is not expected nor inferred in the condition that construction cannot coincide with Carmel School being in session. And as far as the density and the acreage, staff is aware, the site has been over the original 23 acres for many years now, but we are still predicating the maximum density, and I included all of the owned contiguous single-family dwellings in the unit count, and this is pointed out on page 2 of the staff report discussion. They do own 9 contiguous parcels at 28 acres. However, the density is still predicated on 23 acres times 7.5.
Whatever that is. Okay, very good. Commissioner Hartzell.
Could you just point me to where we are memorializing that in the materials? So where are you going to put down the density? Where are you going to make it nice and clean, as Mr. Panzer puts it?
There he is. Whoop.
Through the chair, this is under consistency, finding number 2, section B. It talks about, it's in there, the maximum build out according to the 1960 use permit, quoting the number of units predicated on 23 acres. So it's under finding 2, consistency, evidence B.
And is there a way to clarify that so that the fact that they have more than 23 acres never impacts the density analysis here?
Through the chair, I think we also want to clarify that density is really for residential units and not typically applied to assisted living facilities. So I think the concern is the number of maximum build out of units, which is 172 per the original use permit. So staff would encourage, if not already included in the resolution, the limitation of the total number of units rather than a living unit per acreage density calculation, if that's desired.
Okay, so the fact that we've got 169 units happening and that 172 are allowed are the only things we're looking at. The additional acreage is not relevant since we're going off of a use permit that was issued at 23.
Through the chair, the additional acreage, that acreage has been exceeded since at least the 1970s. And so I think we could maybe come up with some kind of wording that we've increased the overall acreage, but we'd have to actually do that without increasing the allowed density as well. So it'd have to be reformulated. So I think we could do that, but it might take a few minutes.
Okay. I'm trying to make it easy to understand instead of more confusing. So please note that that's what I'm aiming for in this language so that we don't have to see that math before us again. While I'm at it, a couple of additional errata. Finding 7D, if you could just make sure that that refers to the correct number of conditions. Finding 25, make sure it refers to the correct geotechnical report. And then the count baseline is the only other one that I want to make sure of, as long as I'm being nitpicky.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I got finding 7 evidence D, and then after that was...
Finding 7 evidence D refers to 3 conditions. I think you only want to refer to 1. And then finding 25, you're citing a geotechnical report that's got a different name than the other ones. I think it might just be a typo, not a just...
Very well.
Thank you, Commissioner. You're very good at that nitpicky stuff.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, back to the calculation, I'm just looking for something that says as simple as historic acquisitions have resulted in an overall parcel size of 25 point whatever. However, 172 units is still the maximum allowed under this use permit, or something, just plain language like that, regardless of the density thingummy. So that would be a suggestion as you are thinking about that. And then I do have just a question about the errata and that have been outlined in the applicant's letter of the 8th. Have those all been incorporated into the document we're looking at now? They had a parcel number and a grading amount and stuff like that.
They can be incorporated. The reason I did not do that is I cited the 2 parcels where the only actual activity is occurring, demolition and construction. Technically, I would list all of the 6 parcels on Los Arboli. They own 9 parcels overall, if you go to page 2 of the staff report. So the 3rd parcel wasn't listed because there's no construction. I don't believe. Demo. Oh, is it demolition? Okay, then duly noted. That is noted. That is the 2nd parcel. I can have the 3rd parcel, though. There's no harm done.
I guess I just wanted you to address the different ones that have been raised and see whether we're incorporating them or not. The acreage one we're addressing separately. And with respect to the 25% slope, I'm in favor of as much ammunition as we can possibly add to why we would do that, because we're wanting to be consistent in all things. And it certainly seems to me that there is a finding appropriately made, better fulfills the requirements of the plan or something like that. I forget the words, but it clearly seems to me to do that. Anyway, so I'll stop and just let you give a little bit of thought to clarifying the acreage thing, because I'm like Commissioner Hartzell, I'd like not to see it ever again. And the next person, 25 years from now, I'd like them not to be grappling with that issue.
Fellow commissioners, are there any other while they grapple with that? Commissioner Mendoza? Commissioner Gonzalez? Anything? Nope. And Commissioner Shaw? No questions? Okay. Well, Commissioner Hartzell.
With clarification on which of the items from Mr. Panzer's letter are getting incorporated, and clarification on the acreage, site number of unit dance that we're doing. After that, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Shaw.
Really quickly, just because I don't think it's going to be covered in this application, that drainage area that's causing flooding at the bottom of the road, can anybody give this gentleman direction on who to contact about that, or what the process would be if it's not going to be addressed through this?
Yes, I would recommend contacting County of Monterey Public Works.
Okay.
And should Commissioner Hartzell make a motion, I would be prepared to second it.
Well, we'll all just sit and wait then.
While staff is working, I might just ask, can I ask Mr. Panzer a question?
Sure.
The staff feedback on the noise, does that work for you?
It clarified the concern, yes.
Thanks.
It works. Thank you.
Okay. As soon as Mr. Mason comes up with an answer. No pressure at all, though.
Very well. Here, this is again, finding to consistency under perhaps tailing at the end of B, establishment of use, adding no more than 172 independent living units shall be operated by Carmel Valley Manor regardless of overall acreage owned. Does that get at what we're trying to accomplish?
I don't know. Is that what you're trying to get at?
No, I'm trying to get at what's established by that use permit.
Oh, the original use permit.
You're super close. And I'm willing to defer this to you and Fiona at a future time. Nope. Commissioner Deal is not. We're going to wait.
Nope, not going to wait.
Simply because we are where we are, They're both planners. They have an allergic reaction to plain language some days.
I find that hard to believe. Well, I guess we'll.
All right, something to the effect that although this is not in conformance with the original, I could cite the 1960 use permit, no more, something leading up to it like that, would that, pointing out that this isn't exactly word for word in conformance, but the density, something to that effect?
Can I try?
Sure.
How about we just take, we're already talking about the 1960 use permit. So the number of housing units for lessee residents constructed shall not exceed 7.5 times the number of acres on said land and any contiguous land acquired by the applicant up to a total of 23 acres, period. Historically, an additional X number of acres have been acquired. However, based on 23 acres multiplied by 7.5 units, 172.5 housing units are allowed, period. So you're addressing that we have more, but we're using the original density.
I like that. And should someone come back with a new use permit, that's a different conversation.
Yeah. That's another time and another place. Would that work for you, Ms. Jensen?
Yes, I would probably recommend adding additional sentence clarifying that it still is 172 regardless of the acreage. Because we're recognizing now 2 different acreages, so it still maintains the historical allowed of 172.
Sound good? Good. Okay. Then, now I've forgotten which, Commissioner Hartzell.
I can articulate it for you.
Yeah, thank you.
I move to approve staff's recommendation with the amendments that we've just discussed.
And Commissioner Deal will second?
I do.
Very good. And we need a roll call vote on this particular item because of our person who has joined us on Zoom. So Ms. Clerk, would you mind, please?
Commissioner Hartzell?
Aye.
Commissioner Getzelman?
Aye.
Commissioner Work?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Mendoza?
Aye.
Commissioner Deal?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Monsalve?
Yes.
Motion carries, passes.
Thank you very much. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon. We have one item left on the agenda. That would be the department report. Ms. Jensen's going to share something with us.
Thank you, Chair. Staff just has a couple of items that we want to share with the Commission. First being for the upcoming May 27th Planning Commission item or hearing. We only have one item scheduled. It is a CIP item, more of as an FYI rather than a formal action taken by the Commission, proposed by Public Works. So staff is wondering if there is concurrence from the Commission to hold that one item on May 27th.
Well, for those of us who have to drive a long way, and driving up here for one item doesn't sound like a very good idea. The rest of the commission? Agree? Disagree? Agree. Okay. Looks like you have that agreement that it is not a good idea to do one item.
Okay, not an agreement. Thank you.
And that means that the following agenda is going to be robust and people should prepare themselves accordingly?
Correct. And I'm not sure if then timing aligns with the planned CIP item to come back to the Planning Commission as a informal recommendation or an FYI item. It may just directly go to the Board of Supervisors.
What's the planned CIP item? Sorry, Guyon.
Yeah, I guess we need to know.
What are we missing? What are we passing on?
Let me see if I can find that out for you, Commissioner.
What does CIP stand for?
A capital improvement plan.
And it's a CIP program by the county?
Correct.
And your next question is, why are we doing that? No?
I'm new here. Maybe you should ask that question.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to help.
Oh, Director Spencer, how good to hear your voice out of the heavens.
Yes, so to answer the questions, the capital improvement plan comes annually to the Planning Commission before it goes to the board. Because there is a planning and zoning law requirement that we do a general plan consistency determination on those projects that are planned in the 5-year capital improvement program, with usually 1 year being the funded projects for next fiscal year. That the Planning Commission's recommendation on the general plan consistency of the county's capital improvement plan usually goes then to the board for final action with the CIP itself.
Did I explain that for you, Commissioner Hartzell?
Didn't we just do that?
Yeah, I thought we did. Is this the
do it
second?
every
Is
year.
this the second time around, Mr. Spencer?
It comes around, it feels like, more often than once a year, but I don't know that we have done it for this year.
Okay. It just feels like it.
Maybe we did last year's late or something? Because it's important to look at for us. I would hate for us not to be able to at least give it a once-over with respect to the general plan consistency, because that's where we've been particularly able to focus on recommending or supporting priorities that we've then carried forward. It is, I mean, you know, that is our job to make that recommendation. So I'd hate to miss it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's worth a whole meeting to come in when you have to drive for hours and hours either. But I should hope that there would be some compromise in there.
Is there a compromise, do you think, Ms. Jensen? Well, you said you didn't know if there was a time frame involved in this or not, right? Craig, do you know? I mean, Mr. Spencer, do you know
Yes, there is a time.
involved in this?
There's a time frame involved. We will check with our counterparts in Public Works. We'll figure out the timing. It may not work to delay the Planning Commission review prior to the board, but we can still bring something to the Planning Commission for review at the appropriate time if the timing works out that way.
Okay. All right, we need a little more information then. That would be great. All right, very well. That's in abeyance until we find out some more information. Ms. Jensen, you have anything else?
Yes, just yesterday, staff received its third review of the findings from the California Housing and Community Development, indicating that the county's draft housing element is consistent with state law. Cool. And so staff will be making a letter publicly available shortly after this. And then finally, there have been a couple items that were considered by the Planning Commission in, I believe, April or February that have been now considered by the Board of Supervisors, namely the 4 properties rezoned in Lockwood were approved by the Board of Supervisors a few weeks ago, as well as the rezoning of the September Ranch Affordable Housing parcel. So that's just circling back on a couple of items the Commission recently considered.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always nice to know what happens to stuff we do. You have more?
Just wanted to ask, what happens to the housing element next? It goes back to the board, or does it, what?
It still requires certification, so there's still a couple of steps in process, but this is a major step forward.
Oh, yeah, but we were wanting to know what the other steps are and what we could be looking forward to in terms of action here. What happens after that? You just, by whom? And, sorry.
Was that the board?
I could jump in there again if it would help. So the next steps involve completion of the environmental documentation, CEQA, and we are actively working on the draft EIR for the housing element. And in order to be deemed in compliance and consistent, the plan itself, as it's drafted now and is statutorily meets the requirements according to our state reviewers, that will have to go through a formal general plan adoption process with the CEQA documentation. So the next step is release of a draft EIR, 45-day public review and comment period, followed by the completion review of comments, determination on the CEQA front, which will include at least the preparation of a final EIR with response to comments. That with the plan and the mandatory rezoning of the housing opportunity sites will come before the Planning Commission and finally to the board for adoption before it's resubmitted to state HCD. There also be a requirement at that point to transmit those rezones and on the properties in the coastal zone to the Coastal Commission, but that won't hold up our determination of consistency from the state level.
so that sounds like the better part of a year?
Our target is September for board action and submittal back to the state.
And then it gets submitted and there's a waiting period after that? Or not?
If there is, it'll be a short period. There's no statutory time limit on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Ms. Jensen?
That is all. Thank you.
That's all? Very good. All right, everybody, they gave me a gavel, so this, I know, huh? I feel very important all of a sudden. So we are calling this meeting adjourned at 12:27 p.m. Thank you, everyone.